Good news, everyone! So to Speak has now turned 50 years old. And to celebrate, we're going to be talking about a certain show that we haven't mentioned on this podcast ever. The Simpsons.
Oh yeah, man! It's been so long since we talked about The Simpsons. I forgot we talked about The Simpsons.
Right? There wasn't another show I was alluding to when I said that, did I? I don't know.
Disenchantment, maybe?
Maybe, yeah. Something Matt Groening related, maybe.
Or Futurama, maybe.
I don't know, maybe.
Futurama,
oh yeah.
It's not like The Simpsons.
I forgot about that show.
It's not like The Simpsons is the only thing he's ever done.
Welcome everybody to So to Speak. If things feel a little bit different, that's because I'm your guest host today, Cody McDonald. You may remember me from such podcasts as Pop Talk.
Yeah, that's going pretty well.
Anyone else care what this guy thinks?
Aww.
And
we're really rolling out the welcome wagon today for our new guest host.
And I'm here today with people you might recognize. I got Lyle Groniger.
Yo-ho!
I got Evan Mead.
Hello.
And
Hello, everybody.
And I got Josh Weinberg.
Hello.
Everybody, let's do a little toast. We have...
Yeah, raise your cups.
By the way, you said 50 years of So to Speak. Don't you mean 50 weeks?
Josh is drinking
Did I
water.
say years?
Well,
You said years.
I mean, this year
Well,
feels
we'll get
like
to that.
50 years in and of itself.
3,
Just over
2, 1.
Ah.
The first time we've ever drank soda on this show. Isn't that weird?
It's a special occasion.
Yeah.
Today, boys.
Mm.
Skull.
Follow me, don't follow me. I've got my Sprite.
I've got my Orange Crush.
Got my Coca-Cola Zero.
We are buzzed and need to pee.
Had my soda, now it's time to speak.
Alright, as I said, yeah, correction, not 50 years, 50 weeks of doing this show,
50
you guys.
weeks.
You guys have pumped out a lot of episodes this past year.
Thank you.
Been feeling great. And to celebrate that, I think we need to kind of come full circle on a certain subject that we've come together quite a few often just to shoot the shit about. And I think, what other show should we talk about on here than The Simpsons? Shall we?
Again.
Again.
Yes.
You know,
what else is there to talk about
I like
these
how
days?
you know how Cody. I respect your opinion as a filmmaker, and when we talk about the lack of originality, sometimes we talk about how everything's a reboot or a sequel these days. But I feel like if we reboot this idea, it's going to be fun.
It is a reboot, and I think we should definitely come full circle because you guys ended off the Simpsons marathon with a very dour note with talking about the Abyss.
The last 10 seasons, yeah.
Which, speaking of which...
Yeah, don't worry. This podcast is on a sliding continuity, just like the real thing.
Yeah. Which, speaking of which, I kind of want to go around the table. I'll kind of just point out your names. But ever since you guys did the Abyss episode, have you guys progressed and watched the show since? So, let's start with you, Lyle.
No, I kind of stopped after the Abyss episode because I was just so bored with The Simpsons. It got to the point where I just couldn't even finish seasons like the way I usually do for these episodes. I'm usually very prepared. But I was running out of time. I was working so much. I couldn't get through all the seasons. Afterwards, I needed a break. But I actually just finished the entire series of Futurama. I watched from season 1 all the way to 10 on Disney Plus, including the direct-to-DVD movies, and that was a great experience. I loved watching that whole show.
Yeah, nudge, nudge, wink, wink. We'll talk about that maybe in 10 more weeks, so stay tuned.
I will hold my mouth. I also finished season 3 of Disenchantment, so I'm all caught up with that. Not much to report, honestly.
You're just on a roll. Wow.
I have way too much time on my hands. I'm the editor of So to Speak. I have way too much time on my hands.
What about you, Josh?
I was already watching season 32 as it was airing, so I figured I might as well finish the newest season just to get myself up to speed. But I feel like my enjoyment of it obviously waned years ago, but it's sort of, I don't really feel anything negative or positive when watching it. It's just meh.
Yeah.
The marathon continues.
The marathon continues.
It's still on at least, but if there was one thing about the most recent season, it's that the Skinner Chalmers double episode, like the double focus of the Road to Cincinnati, is one of the better modern episodes that I've seen in some time.
And what about
Whether
you,
it's because of how big Steamed Hams has been over the last few years, or because the writers generally wanted to give Chalmers more focus, who knows?
What about you, Evan?
As for me, I'm kind of the same boat as Lyle. I didn't really feel any need to go back and watch more episodes of The Simpsons. I may have watched like one or two out of curiosity from the last episode we did because, but I still need to watch a very fun thing that Bart will never do again. That sounds like a really Lyle sold me on like how that episode actually does sound really fun.
Cool. I actually went through a big progress since last time we talked about the Golden Age. So I mentioned last time that I made it up to season 10 or season 11 when I was doing my little binge, my endurance test, I should say. And I not only, since doing that Golden Age episode with you guys, not only have I rewatched the Golden Age twice since then, I, however, have pressed on to season 21. Halfway in season 21. The last episode I watched...
Progress is progress.
Yeah, I think it was actually 450 episodes. It said it in the show at the point that I was at. Because it was an episode where Homer... what was the plot of it? Homer won the lottery because he dipped out on not going to Marge's like singing recital or something like that with him.
Yeah.
They were doing like a duet thing, and he hid all that money inside of a tree in the back. Yeah,
I remember that.
And I actually thought it was
that tree grows in Springfield.
I think it was called like $1 Million Honey or something like that. It was a play on
$1 Million
Maybe.
Maybe?
$1 Million Maybe. That's the episode. Yeah. So it was a play on that, the movie. I actually thought it was a pretty decent episode, and I like where I'm at right now. So the ending of season 23 is still among me. It's still ahead on the horizon.
I think you also got into Futurama too, haven't you?
I did get it. Yeah, I did get into Futurama. I just finished season 8. It's we'll definitely talk about that some other day. But
we shall, yes.
I did rewatch the season 10, which I said I wasn't that too big on. And even though I did find an episode or two that were funny, I would almost say that The Wizard of Evergreen Terrace was my favorite one. My thoughts on the meh years, season 11 to 20, were for every 7 or 8 average episodes, there's one that clicks. That's kind of how it always went for me. And there were episodes that were not only kind of boring me, but there were episodes that kind of make Principal and the Pauper look like Marge versus the Monorail.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So I kind of have to take my opinion back on that episode a bit and say at least they were trying.
Yeah, Prince and the Pauper does not seem so bad nowadays.
Yeah, in
gotta
hindsight.
admit.
Yeah. But so it continues. It's very slow. I'm gonna get to season 30 whenever. I'll be caught up, but it's just I'm happy with what I did, you know.
And over under of the last two, like seasons 31 and 32 being on Disney Plus before Cody gets up to date.
Yeah, I'm almost. It's cool to say I'm almost like more than halfway there. I'd say I'm 2/3 of the way there. But then only if I slack more, then it's just I'm gonna eventually be halfway there, and then 1/4 of the way there. If they keep going.
Yeah.
So
what's the purpose of this episode?
Yeah, so tonight's format, we're just going to be shooting the shit about some of our, not only our favorite episodes, but favorite episodes centered around, I was going to say the 5 main characters of the show, but since Maggie, we all love Maggie, but she doesn't really have too many episodes that's centered around her. We're going to talk about an episode surrounding the 4 main characters of the family, favorite side character episode, favorite lore episode, and we're going to end it all off on favorite quotes as well.
What do you mean?
Oh, and our favorite guest star from the show as well. We can't forget that one.
Now, what do we mean by lore? Like a favorite lore episode?
We'll get to that one. Because I am a bit stumped on that one too. But before we get into that, because there's so much we want to cover a bit. But why don't we go around the table a bit? And I'm curious to know if you guys have any warm, kind of reminiscent stories of the first time you laughed out loud at this show. So let's start with you, Lyle.
Okay. I think the first joke I remembered from The Simpsons was in season 1. The show started way before I was born, but I remember it was a rerun. And it was the one there's no disgrace like home. It's the ending where like they're all strapped to the electric chairs.
That is probably
and they torture each other.
That's the moment where the dysfunctional family part of the show came into its own. Like that was the introduction.
Yes, but I died laughing so hard at them zapping each other. And the animation's fucking weird.
This is not the way to get healthy.
Bart, how can you zap your sister? My finger slipped.
So did mine.
And Maggie's just tapping away at the button. Why is she plugged in? Isn't that dangerous?
That's horrible.
Oh my god, Marvin Monroe, you suck. No wonder you got killed off screen.
Oh no, I've just been very, very sick.
Uh-huh.
That is a good one. Yeah,
that was my first introduction to The Simpsons. I think another bit I remember is just, I think it was that one moment where he wants to eat that pie. I forget what episode it's on. It's on the oven.
Lisa on Ice.
Okay, Lisa on Ice, yep.
And he's like, okay, pie, now you're just going to stay there. And I'm going to go, hum, hum, hum. Now if you get in my way, well, that's your fault. Hum, hum, hum. And it hits his head on the wall. Ah! Oh! Oh!
Well, clearly it runs in the family because that came after a scene
Oh,
where Bart was like, and if you get in my way, it's your own fault. Yeah, it runs in the family.
Yeah, those are some of my earliest memories of the show. We can keep going.
Yeah. What about you, Josh?
Well, the first time I actually remember really laughing at a joke was when I first watched the show. This would have been, I think, around season 8 or 9, so this might have been 97, 98. I was at our old cottage, and it was on Global, so it was probably a Sunday afternoon or evening, but it was like the first time I really sort of got to understand the show. And then going through when I got the DVD sets in like 2002, when I really got to when I started watching the earlier seasons and laughing at those jokes really for the first time, that was when a lot of the humor of the golden age started to click. And since then there've been like some moments where I really chuckled, but like I think the major first time was when I actually heard I call the big one Bitey. Because it comes out of left field, but it's just funny.
It's one of Matt Groening's favorite lines in the whole show too.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that is a good one. At least you started out with a bang one. It's like
sure.
Top 3 favorites. Top 3 best.
Of all time,
Yeah, it's a little spotty, but it's more when I actually got to the DVDs themselves, I just went through, because I never watched it really, even if it was on reruns on like Teletoon, for example, because I was too young at the time.
Oh yeah, it did play on Teletoon.
Simpsons are on Teletoon?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was, I think, like at 9 or 10 at night. I distinctly remember there being bumpers for it back in the day.
I always remembered it being on like Comedy Central, but like never on like
that
Teletoon.
too.
Yeah, Comedy Central a lot. They always did like marathons.
Yeah. And it was also in Canada. In Canada, it was on Global and the Omni Network, and the CBC would even host episodes.
Yep. I remember.
Shout out to Michael for that.
Yes.
Yeah, and Fox obviously, that's a no-brainer. But like.
And then City TV, except not anymore.
City TV. Oh yeah, City TV. Shit, that brings me back. Wow. And what about you, Evan? First time you had a huge laugh.
I remember the first was kind of like a minor laugh. I remember I was up at a lodge the summer after 3rd grade, and it was a day where like there was nothing to do, so we just watched TV, and The Simpsons was on. I remember watching the King of the Hill episode where he climbs Mount Murderhorn, and then he thinks he made it to the top. I did it! I made it! I actually... Oh, crap! And he sees there's more mountain. It just keeps going! I remember being a kid, and I couldn't stop laughing at that. I was laughing really hard. Like, because he thought he made it to the top, and there was more mountain. And then he fucking pitches the flag. He just gives up and pitches the flag to say, yeah, I'm not going to make it, but let's not and say I did. So he pitches the flag, and then the rest of the mountain that he had to climb just collapses, so he wins by default.
Default.
There was another
greatest
time,
words in the English language.
There was another time when I remember, I think it was, I can't remember, like it was just a random after school night, or it was a random school night, or if my family was over for Thanksgiving, but I remember turning on the TV, seeing a classic Simpsons moment. I remember seeing Bart and Lisa visiting this guy who I would later know is Lance Murdoch in the hospital, and he's in a body cast, and then he's like, doctor, I heard a snap, and Dr. Hibbert's like, oh, I'm afraid that's broken. But this was just like trivial like stuff. It was building up to Bart jumping the Springfield Gorge, or about to jump the Springfield Gorge. Then Homer says, "No, you can't do it," and then Homer winds up inadvertently jumping or not jumping the Springfield
Bro,
Gorge.
I'm gonna make it! I'm the king of the world!
That might be like the first
Right
iconic
about here
moment.
is where I realized something's wrong.
And I remember I remember laughing at Homer falling down the gorge, and then I remember they airlift him out of the gorge into an ambulance. The ambulance crashes into a tree, and then he falls down the gorge again. And then I'll never forget this line when he's with Lance he's next to Lance Murdoch in the hospital, and he looks at him, and the last line is, "If you think you got guts, try raising my kids." And then I just remember laughing really hard at
that might be the first iconic moment from The Simpsons.
Yeah.
Because people started like saying that. That was like the first one.
Well,
Yeah.
they always call back to it a lot. They even do it in the Simpsons movie.
Yeah. And then isn't there there's an extension of that scene in one of the recap episodes, or what do they call it? Like
Behind the Laughter.
Clip shows where you see him actually falling down the mountain the second time. It's not just off camera. You're seeing his body plummet
I
the
was
same way.
lampshading too, and Homer's like, right about here is when I realized something's wrong.
Yeah. The clip show showed like an extension. It was
Wasn't
almost
that
like a
Gump Roast?
I think it
Behind the Laughter.
Yeah, they were talking about like, oh, here's all the time Homer hit his head, and it was like a big montage of it.
Yeah, you gotta love the montage where he says "dough" or gets himself injured. Those are always the best in the clip shows.
I have an addendum to like my first major memories. When I used to burn CDs and stuff, there were a few tracks that were basically just long compilations of hilarious like quotes and stuff from The Simpsons, and of course that like remix of I Am Evil Homer from Whacking Day. That's probably my first real major like music memory of The Simpsons, even if it's not an official one. Like I would be listening to that all day, every day when I was like, I don't know, upwards of like 7 or 8 until like my teenage years.
Well, Whacking Day was a very musical episode because they even got Barry frickin' White to come on the show.
Yeah,
and like leave the snakes alone, and then he like he puts the speakers towards the ground because the snakes feel vibration they can't hear. So yeah.
Oh, whacking
even
day!
in small doses.
Oh, whacking day!
Something.
Even in small doses, the show's always sort of been able to capitalize off of like these small micro musical moments and make them into. I mean, they basically had the formula for stuff like Vine or TikTok before they came around.
Yeah,
I agree, Josh. And also, I remember saying this on our Family Guy episode that I can remember Family Guy just for its jokes. Whenever I see a joke from The Simpsons, I can remember exactly what episode it was from because the storytelling was just as good as the humor.
Because there was context. Right?
Yeah.
Yay! Keep bashing Family Guy. I love this. Keep going, just please. I love this.
He's getting a raging boner.
Yeah.
You mean a raging hate boner?
Yeah, this is why first impressions are always really big on me because I remember only one scene from the show that made me laugh my ass off when I actually got into the show. But as I said before, when this show was always on, when I was flipping through the channels as a kid before I was allowed to watch it, because I was always under the impression, like my mom said, like, The Simpsons is just not for you yet. You can't really watch it. So it's not like she banned me, it's just, she said you're not going to get it, definitely.
My mom, in my house, The Simpsons was forbidden territory until I turned 13. But here's the thing. My mom even tried to ban SpongeBob at one point.
Jesus.
But once she thought the show was pathetic, but then she actually started... No, my mom started watching episodes, and she now can say that her favorite characters are Mr. Krabs and Squidward.
Yeah. It wasn't until I was 10 years old where I actually started getting into the show. But before that, I'd always remember little moments that I would catch on TV that still made me laugh, even out of context, even before watching the show. And like, that's a powerful show. Like, that's how much this show had a power on me, where I remember these moments. So the first one being from 2001 Greyhounds, when Homer was picking up the chips, going, and then a dog would swipe up out of nowhere, dope! 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 And I think that might have been my introduction to the word dope. which later on would be in the English dictionary.
Yeah, it's in the dictionary now.
That's crazy to me.
Mm-hmm.
The second one being from Bart's girlfriend after they found out that Jessica Lovejoy was the one that stole the money. They're like, to the little girl's room, and they lift up the bed, and they're like, is that the church money? And Mo just comes out of nowhere and goes, yeah, smells like church. I'm like, haha, that's so true. Church does have a scent to it. I just remember thinking that as a kid. And the third one, this is my favorite one. So much like, I guess all of us, or maybe especially Evan, because you used to watch a lot of kid shows back then with a lot of like moral lessons and like a thing at the end that like kids can learn. So after, you're used to shows, where your characters would mess up and, like they say, I'm sorry. And then there's all their friends go, it's okay. We all forgive you. And then everyone learns a lesson. So when I popped on the ending of Miracle on Evergreen Terrace, and after Bart confesses to the family that he's the one that burnt all the Christmas presents in the tree, when he says, I'm so sorry, there's a pause, and I'm thinking, oh, they're going to forgive him. Instead, they lash out on him and start choking him. Lisa.
No, Lisa, your hands are too weak. Why
I'll just never forgetting laughing at like all these quick inserts of like the family just losing their minds, grabbing each other back and strangling.
They made a whole episode called "Brawl in the Family" later on, where the family gets into a fight.
I just remember that broke the formula. I was like, oh my god, that's hilarious.
Yeah,
I will never forget that. I was laughing so hard. Just watching Homer strangle Bart. That was probably the first time I've seen it, obviously. Yeah, when I tuned in on it.
Yeah.
Then when I watched the show, the first big laugh was from the call of The Simpsons. After Homer inexplicably destroys the RV and it goes over the cliff, and he's trying to reassure the family, don't worry, I'm an experienced woodsman. Now, let me just go over here and try to find my bearings. And he starts, like, cursing to himself, like, what have I done? I've murdered us all! I've murdered us all! I've murdered us all! Shut up! Shut up! Shut up! Shut up! He's yelling at his fucking echo. I just remember laughing so hard at that. Telling your own echo to shut up. It's brilliant. Yeah, that's kind of the first big laughs. Definitely.
Yeah,
There's too many to count.
That's always fun to revisit.
Yeah. Alright, so since we're gentlemen, let's go with ladies first.
I kind of want to talk about Marge because there aren't that many iconic Marge episodes compared to iconic Lisa or Bart or Homer episodes.
The ones that aren't just her leaving Homer and Homer has to reconcile with her, which happens at least twice a season now.
Marge does blank for 20 minutes, or Marge leaves and how will the family cope without her?
Yeah. Which is mostly the plot for most of the episodes we picked.
Yeah, why don't we... so let's start with Marge. Lyle, you take it away.
Okay, my pick for Marge is Marge in Chains. Which is an episode I hadn't really thought of much until the pandemic occurred.
Yeah, it's that episode is 2020 in a nutshell.
Yes.
It was too real before Totally Fun Thing was too real.
By the way, it was what Red Letter Media would call the 2020 episode.
Yeah, Red Letter Media definitely turned me on to this episode, and rewatching it, I guess if I'll give a brief plot synopsis.
Only brief, or else we'll start singing Guys and Dolls if you indulge too much.
A virus from another country comes into Springfield when everyone buys an orange juicer, and everyone gets super sick from the virus.
The virus is called the Osaka flu.
The Osaka flu virus, that's right. And Marge has to take care of the entire family because they're all sick and too lazy to help themselves. So she goes to the Quickie Mart to get the supplies. She accidentally shoplifts something and gets arrested and sent to jail. And the whole town is like kind of treating her like public enemy number one. And but then they kind of realize they can't really exist without her.
And then a riot happens.
And killer bees.
Oh my god.
Oh, so they managed to fit COVID-19, murder hornets, and BLM riots into, or just riots in general.
Politicians retreating the country and saying everything is fine.
And by the way, there's a statue of a lame president there as well.
That gets taken down.
Yeah. No, it is insane the level of things that happen that just so happen to happen in 2020.
You want to talk about Simpsons predicting the future? Look no more than this episode.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And the reason why I like it as a Marge episode is that it does show that she's just as helpful around the community as she is with her own family. So like when they have the bake sale and they're like $15 short or something, it's like Marge's Rice Krispie Squares could have got us that money. Oh no. And it's kind of nice to have Marge be like the spotlight and to show that all her hard work towards her family and her community is actually appreciated for once by the end. And it's kind of funny to see like the nicest Simpson getting like turned bad, I guess, by being sent to jail, which is something you wouldn't think she would ever do. That's a nice subversion.
And not for the last time either.
Won't be the last. No. This episode also has one of my all-time favorite grandpa moments when Marge is in jail and she's just like, "So how are things at home? We flushed a gator down the toilet, but it got stuck halfway, and now we have to feed it." And Grandpa's fighting the croc with a plunger. He's like, "No, you want a piece of me, eh? Well, you ain't gonna get it, see?" Oh no! He eats his dentures. Like, oh gosh, darn it. That is so surreal to me. Like, for the first time watching, I'm like, this is the most.
And the
surreal
alligator
thing I've ever
just
seen.
has this big smirk on his face when he eats Grandpa's
It's almost
teeth.
like a political cartoon or something. It's just so like random.
It's like when the big fish at the end of the War on the Simpsons, when it just like winked to the camera.
Yeah.
It was like, what? But apparently Matt Groening hated, by the way.
Oh, that.
He hated the fact that it winked.
Oh.
Because
Okay.
he's like, that's way too cartoony.
Self-aware humor.
Oh, no,
a
A cartoon is cartoonish. What? I'm glad Simpsons.
Better not look at your own show in about 20 years' time, Matt. You might find some more pertinent issues.
Yeah, you'll make your head spin. But I don't have too much else to say about Marge and Chains, unless you guys have any other points.
It's a classic.
I never thought about it until this past year, so I don't really have much to
Me
say
neither.
about it.
Like,
But it's an eye-opener.
It's actually aged remarkably well because
Yeah.
of what has happened in today's news.
I just love Wiggum fighting off the virus when it's like airborne. Like, it's just taking out his gun, throws it at it.
I love how Patty and Selma get each other the exact same gift too, and they open it like,
I think it's bad for Otto though and all of that.
Oh yeah, he gets vomited. He's sunbathing on the roof and he gets vomited.
yeah, because Arnie Pie in the sky like, I'm not feeling so good. I'm not feeling so good, cat. Alright, Mr. Sun, show me what you can do.
He goes like, look out of the corner of 5th and 8th, because I'm going to be sick. Alright, Mr.
Season 13 and 15, because that would have shown all of that.
Oh my god. Alright, we should move on.
Alright, Josh, what's your Marge episode?
The same one I went with in our Golden Age episode, Marge versus the Monorail. I've already talked about it. It's one of the funniest Golden Age episodes. It's the reason why I picked it though is more because when Marge tends to follow her gut, she's usually right about something, and no one believes that the monorail's not made well. It's not going to run. People are going to die, and she's the only one that can stop it from like basically flying off the tracks and destroying everybody. And again, it's got Leonard Nimoy. It's got some funny individual moments. The musical parts as well. One of the late Phil Hartman's best guest roles.
Yes.
I don't think you need any more convincing to watch it than that.
One of the things I actually liked about the guest starring was Leonard Nimoy. It is the most pointless cameo ever, but it works.
It leaves an impression.
Yeah. And then they even kind of hinted at when Barney is like, Lyle, you do an amazing Barney voice. Well, my work here is done.
What do you mean work? You didn't do anything.
Deny.
It taught us that a town without a train is like a mule without a spinning wheel.
Yeah. I always love it when they finish
And nothing not needed.
I love it when they finish their musical number, but Homer still goes, Mono!
Go!
Yeah. Go!
He was off by one. You know what's crazy? Like, when I read on the history of the show, or this episode in particular, was it written by Conan O'Brien?
Yes.
Yeah, it was written by Conan O'Brien. And when it was finished, a lot of the people behind the scenes hated the episode. They didn't think it was going to do well because it was kind of outlandish at the time.
Not as outlandish as
What? The Simpsons being outlandish?
Yeah.
I know, right? But like at the time, like I think Yeardley Smith, also said it was like, oh, this is like one of the worst episodes we've ever done, and it's gonna
Really?
Not the one where she guest starred as herself?
be what?
Oh, did she?
She did. When was that?
Yeah, one of the recent ones. She guest starred as herself. That's what I'm. It's funny how the people that are running the show think these things are gonna go badly.
Well, I mean, this is all
Yeah.
this is all back in the day. Like, not in hindsight, they probably recognize the genius behind the episode.
Yeah.
But
I find it kind of. Well, I guess I'll bring up that point when we get to Lisa's episode. But yeah.
Yeah, but like,
And just to tack on, Conan's written contributions to The Simpsons have always been great. And I think it's a good sign when you'll probably be seeing another one of his later on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, there's a lot to say. I think we've already said so much about that one, but it's always a great one. It's always a classic.
It's probably my favorite episode too. Although I didn't know if it really classified as a Marge episode because the entirety of this Citizens of Springfield almost feel like the main character in that episode. But Marge ultimately...
That's true. I decided to give it to Marge only because of when she's driving to all the different towns to investigate.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. She is the most proactive member of the cast at that point. So, yeah, I can see it being
and
a
it
Marge
reflects
episode.
on her role in the Simpson family because she's the housewife, she's the homemaker. Those descendants, basically. But she's the one that, focuses on looking after Maggie, on keeping the house in order, on keeping Bart and Lisa motivated and on the right track, and even doing that with Homer. Like, her role in the family unit is far more significant than the writers tend to give it credit for.
Yeah, it's a good choice, for sure. I agree.
And the show is also really nicely self-aware that it's sort of... Because you know how, like, when people always compare Family Guy to The Simpsons, and then you take a step back further and you say The Simpsons was trying to be like the Flintstones, it was actually nice that the beginning of the episode did a nice little tip to the hat of the Flintstones by doing that parody.
He's about to hit us.
Oh, yeah, no, that was the one I think where that's the couch gag.
Oh, no, it was actually like the beginning. It was the beginning when
the
Homer is going home.
Oh, and how can I forget that nod to the opening?
Yeah.
That was also one of the first big laughs I had with the show. It was like, from the town of Springfield, he's about to hit a chestnut tree. And then it just hard cuts to like back at the house or plant.
It was back at the plant.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
I think they were like getting rid of something, and then he's like, "Oh well, I'm sleeping good tonight.
Yeah.
I don't care where it goes."
Mr. Burns was putting them in the trees at the public park.
This tree held 16 more barrels than the other one.
And then the tree's like turning into an octopus.
There's so many moments.
Yeah.
In fact, this episode went over so well that 25 or so years later, they lampshaded it again.
What?
Where they changed the monorail track into something else, I think. It was, I think, from season 29 or 30. I'm not... Again, later Simpsons likes to take plot elements from earlier Simpsons and just sort of throw them out the wall and see what sticks.
They either do that or they make sequels to classic episodes that no one has asked for.
I love it in Hit and Run, Simpsons Hit and Run, when I think it's the Bart level, or the Bart section, where you can drive, like, the front end of
It was the old Blue Mare Cheyenne, which she used to be, when they take the track from the monorail and make it into a sky park.
Yeah, and they, okay. But in Hit and Run, you can take, like, the first, the
locomotive.
The locomotive of the train, and you can drive it around the Springfield. And the track is still kind of there.
And it drives as slow as a turtle.
It's a shitty vehicle, but it's a nice touch.
Yeah.
But you can, like,
Is
drive
it as
on.
slow as the nuclear bus in Road Rage?
I haven't played Road Rage, actually.
Oh, the nuclear bus. I think that is in Road Rage. Yep. That's the one. Yep.
Alright, but
That's an aside, man. Like, I used to own Hit and Run back in the day, but I should really replay it sometime.
It's Crazy Taxi, but with The Simpsons.
Yeah.
And then Hit and Run is GTA, but with The Simpsons.
Yes. Alright, but we should move on.
Thank
We
goodness
keep
that
going.
didn't stick. Yes. Who's next?
Evan.
Okay.
Marge.
My favorite Marge episode. I actually was having a hard time picking one, but then Cody, I think it was either you or Lyle who reminded me of a great episode.
Oh yeah, I mentioned this one too.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, I know it was Lyle. So basically, and you both encouraged me to talk about it, so I'm going to. Fear of Flying. It's an
excellent choice.
I actually kind of forgot about this episode until I had to rewatch it recently. This is why I think this episode works. It blends drama and hilarity. It blends the drama of the Simpson family dynamic and the hilarity of the Simpson family dynamic all into one episode.
Well, it's essentially a backstory for Marge,
which I really like because
it's sad, but it's also
the closest.
very...
Yes. Now the closest it's worth at this point in season 6. We hadn't really gotten any backstory to Marge as a girl. We've gotten backstories the only backstory we've gotten was in The Way We Was when
more of her teenage years.
We get her background into her teenage years, but her childhood is touched on so briefly. You remember in Selma's Choice when their aunt passes away and they show what Patty, Selma, and Marge look like when they were children, like under 10?
And in Moaning Lisa, it shows how her mother kind of forced her to always have a brave face through everything.
Yeah. So anyways,
back to the episode.
But this
what's
episode,
it about?
Fear of Flying, through a series of hilarious circumstances, an airline gives Homer free tickets to anywhere in the United States. So naturally, they don't even say where they're going, but they get on a plane. Marge completely loses it when the plane is about to take off. And the scene is also somewhat relatable if anyone is afraid of flying themselves. I know what it was like to be nervous on a plane because I hadn't been on a plane very much in my life, but I know what it's like to be nervous. And Marge just screaming, "Let me off! Let 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 me off!" So she goes to therapy, and it turns out that through her therapy work, a traumatic memory involving her father and piloting and planes
and stewardess.
Don't look at me! Don't look at me!
But I mean, it's actually kind of clever in that it does fake you out several other times. You know, with a lot of other memories, you're thinking, oh, it could have been from this other thing. No, it could have been this thing instead. And what it actually arrives at is like it's logical, but at the same time, it just sounds so absurd in that.
Yeah.
You know, you wouldn't expect that would be why she's afraid of flying, but it's perfectly respectable at the same time.
Yeah,
and there's obvious moments like when her mom's like, "Open up, here comes the plane."
Grandma's like, "Here comes the airplane. Open up."
And then like her little toy plane thing that she was riding along.
The engines catch fire.
And then they do like a homage to North by Northwest where she's just at the cornfield with her mom. She just starts getting shot at out of nowhere.
I actually think it's quite genius because when someone is in therapy, it's usually not in the movies would have you believe that someone is in therapy because of one tiny traumatic thing that happened in their lives. No. An ongoing series of like micro events are what cause trauma that's long lasting. Now, I feel like, Marge discovering that her father was a steward or stewardess at the time, I can understand why that would scare her because like because
gender norms.
That's her. Marge is this innocent little girl, and her sense of gender and how she understands, a man's role in society versus a lady in society. That was all turned upside down. And by the way, she thought that her dad was a pilot, and to have that, glory like ripped away from her so embarrassingly, because her dad lied to her. And it involved a plane.
It definitely speaks to something about when you're a child, having any sort of illusion of whether it be a parent, anyone you look up to, any role model. When that faith is shattered, it can really scar you for a long time.
And not only, I actually would agree with that, but also the fact that, she has a traumatic incident on a plane, and then her role as the mother of the family is turned upside down too because she can't cook properly. She goes and does like roofing at like 2 a.m. when she should have been baking.
Shouldn't you be baking?
Marge, it's 2 a.m.
This is one episode where I actually wish I would have experienced it while it was airing on TV with the commercial breaks, because after that initial first act before it cuts to commercial, like when it's established that she has a fear of being on planes and the main family gets off the plane and they watch the plane take off, you realize that while the commercial break is going on, wait, wasn't Grandpa supposed to be with them? Because literally we come back to the show and they address it immediately. Bart's like, wait, are we forgetting something? They do like a Home Alone thing where he's just on the plane.
No,
reverse.
It was Home Alone in reverse.
Yeah, Home Alone in reverse. Yeah. Well, because of the hands on his cheek. Yeah. That's a big laugh for me.
Poor Grandpa. So,
but it is a believable episode how it addresses therapy and how it dives into the psyche and trying to get to the roots of the problem.
By the way, it ends on a joke that's like, oh, you think you get away with your trauma, but isn't it suck when you do all that work to heal trauma and then you feel like you're gonna be comfortable again and then something goes fucking wrong on the plane?
The plane.
That's just the engine powering up. That's just the engine struggling. The plane crashes into a pond. That's that's just the carp swimming around your ankles.
Yeah, it's like, oh, poor Marge.
All that for...
Oh, my God.
And, I completely forgot to mention, the therapist is played by Mrs. Robinson herself.
Yes, it's all a rich tapestry.
Yeah. No, Anne Bancroft does a great job in that.
She does, yeah.
I can't even tell it's her.
Didn't she put in her notes, like, what the reasoning for her being here? She just puts husband,
No, it's
husband,
like,
husband.
I'm sorry,
Yeah,
doctor. I'm sorry, doctor. He's just worried you'll blame all my problems on him. Marge, I'm not here to blame anyone. Circle, husband.
Yeah.
And then they even joke about that. Well, Marge, we've only begun to scratch the surface. There's still a more serious problem we have. That's okay. She can get on a plane. That's plenty.
Yeah. That's great.
It's kind of a callback to the Springfield episode where she's like, maybe I should take some therapy after my gambling addiction. No, therapy's too expensive, Marge. Just don't do it again.
Well, that was the first time you ever see a member of the Simpsons family in any kind of position where they have to talk about their past.
True.
Well, we had seen Homer talk about his past all the fucking time, but it was Marge. Marge was long overdue for something like that.
That is a good choice.
Yeah. And by the way, they were almost going to touch on how she needs therapy in Bart's Inner Child in season 5, but that episode gets hijacked by the personal growth and development guy, and then it becomes about Bart.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
All right.
Anyways, that's all I have to say. Fear of flying, and I also am a guy who loves planes. So, and
Naturally.
yeah,
That's why I recommended that one to you.
yeah.
Well done. All right, Cody, what's your next pick?
I got the Springfield Connection.
Ooh, nice.
You want to talk about female empowerment, boys? This episode's like ahead of its fucking time.
It really is.
So after Marge and Homer are out and about, I think they were at like a Star Wars concert or something like that. They were playing the theme at the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like a John Williams thing. She foils like a scam kind of thing on the street involving Snake. She foils that.
Hustler, yeah.
And she loves the thrill of taking people down. And I like the little things she was going through at the beginning, like, riding the grocery cart and trying to get under the garage door before it closes. And then she finds out, if I join a cop, I can fulfill that sort of thrillment. So she does, and it kind of just goes from there of her actually becoming so obsessed with being in that profession, because it gets to a point where it's my favorite scene in the episode, where she actually arrests Homer for parking in a handicap spot at this Quickie Mart.
No, across 3.
Oh, across 3 of them. Yeah.
So, jerk-ass
And he
Homer...
also proceeds to make fun of her on top of that.
Took her hat, too.
But the fact
Jerk-ass Homer, number 508.
But sometimes, this is why I kind of changed my vote from like something like Homer the Heretic to other episodes, is that sometimes it's a Marge and Homer episode. This one it sticks to Marge, and she's not always... She always thinks like, oh, do I decide between my man or this? This is the point where she does not give a fuck about Homer. And I find that kind of groundbreaking for her.
Yeah.
And the fact that she's a little bit out of her element, like she's out of her comfort zone being that stay-at-home wife, and she's like, she saves the day at the end in a very satisfying way.
Yeah.
Like that whole shooting rampage montage kind of like pays off wonderfully at the end.
Yeah.
Sure.
And also it brings up a little bit of lore with the fact that one-armed Herman is fucking up to no good.
Well, I mean, just look at the guy.
I mean, I don't know, it always alluded, but the fact that like he's actually doing something very criminal in the underbelly of Springfield with
He's an underrated character. I wish they did more with him.
with jeans, right? Wasn't it? Like,
Yeah,
counterfeit
jeans. Yeah.
That rip very easily and have lousy stitching.
Probably the funniest line is when she was doing the training montage. She's trying to get up the wall. Wigham's like, women always have problems with the walls. They never see that door right there. And it's just a bunch of guys walking through the door.
You think he's trying to be sexist, but it's just kind of pointing out the obvious.
Yeah. Yeah, no, not much to really say. Oh, actually, one really crazy thing I noticed in the first half of it, like when it was right after they arrested Snake. Watch that whole episode again from the beginning. Marge's pearls, and I know that this happens a lot in the show, where it could be just like a shot or two, where like it's white, and usually the white pearls belong to Lisa, And
Oh, wow.
Marge's pearls is always the kind of reddish orange. Right?
Orange. They're orange.
The entire first part of the 5-6 minutes of the episode is all white, and Wiggum's hair is like season 1 black.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
see,
It's so strange.
A couple times in the episode, he has black hair in some shots and then blue hair in
It's
other
like, what
shots.
is it? We're in season 6, goddammit. We're not in season 1. What is this shit? Yeah, not much to... Yeah, I find it a little bit more of a female empowerment episode, and it's nice to see Marge out of her element. And anytime, speaking of hit and run, I always throw on the cop uniform.
Oh, yeah.
I feel a little bit more empowered when I play her levels in a cop uniform.
Okay, so that's all the Marge episodes.
Alright, get out of here! It's time to leave! I've been having a boring time sitting here with you guys.
Wow.
Alright, now let's move on to Little Lisa.
Little Lisa.
Little Lisa.
Yes.
All right.
Little Lisa. Da-da-da-da-da. Oh, wait, no, that's the wrong show entirely.
Call back.
Alright, Mr. Lyle, take it away.
Mr. Lyle was my father's name. I'll have you know. Okay. Yeah, Lisa is a little bit difficult. I'm not always the greatest fan of Lisa episodes because sometimes I find them very preachy. But one episode I do like because it actually does a lot to her character is season 2's Lisa Substitute. It's a classic one. This is one
I
of the-
talked about this in the Golden Age.
Yeah, I mean, I was tossed between this and Moaning Lisa, but that one's a little bit dour. This one's a little bit more upbeat, and it shows a lot more of her character. Lisa's Substitute, if I had to break it down, Lisa, basically, Miss Hoover thinks she has Lyme disease, so she gets replaced with Mr. Bergstrom, who is a substitute teacher, who really clicks with Lisa. He's very, very outgoing. He has a very, very good approach when it comes to teaching little children. And she develops a very huge bond over him. It almost borders on like crush at times.
Yeah. Now, Dustin Hoffman guest stars.
Dustin Hoffman,
But
guest stars.
he doesn't. He goes under a pseudonym. He doesn't use his real name. On the
Yeah, he
show.
goes by Sam Eddick in this episode. But just to wrap up the plot, basically, it causes a bit of a divide between Lisa and Homer's bond because she almost treats the teacher as more of a father figure than Homer ever was. So it puts into question Homer's real relationship with his daughter, and that's what I think is the strongest part of the episode. So, yeah, I mean, Mr. Bergstrom, for a one-shot character, he's very good. I love him. He's like the substitute teacher we'd all want to be our actual teacher.
Yeah.
Like, because Miss Hoover sucks. There's no other way to say it.
Miss Hoover is negligent. She's lazy.
She's worse than Crabapple.
She gives no fucks. Speaking of Crabapple, Crabapple goes Mrs. Robinson on Mr. Bergstrom's ass there.
This is Crabapple. I feel like you're trying to seduce me.
Yeah, there's a lot of references.
Yeah, a lot of references.
I think all of Dustin Hoffman's hit movies were referenced. At least one of them was referenced because Midnight Cowboy was referenced, The Graduate was referenced, Rain Man is referenced with the
Marathon
train.
Man was referenced too.
Oh right, yeah.
Yeah, but no, and I think the best part of the episode is definitely by the end when he has to leave because he has another job to do, and Lisa's all heartbroken, and Homer's pretty apathetic to it. He's like, "Just because I don't care doesn't mean I don't understand." And then Lisa calls him a baboon and storms off. Homer has a really nice like redemption arc at the end of the episode where he makes amends with Lisa. He like accidentally breaks her dollhouse. She's like, "Oh, I broke it. I guess that's why I'm good at monkey work." And yeah, I just find that whole speech he has with the lullaby music playing in the background so nice and wholesome. And then I also forgot to mention the Bart supply. It's irrelevant, but like he even helps Bart out with a situation where it's like, "Well, is Martin gonna do all this work for nothing? Then let the baby have his bottle."
That's the election one, right?
Yeah, election. Yeah.
The class election
where no one voted, I guess, but that's just part of the joke. And he even helps Maggie.
Now you can make a joke that the whole poor voter turnout thing, that's never played a part in real life at all. No.
Oh boy.
And he even and then he even helps Maggie fall asleep. And then Margie's like, "Oh, is everything okay, Homer?" It's like, "Shh, honey, I'm gonna go to bed."
Marge, don't stop me. I'm on the biggest role of my life.
And that's really nice because ultimately it's about the bond between Lisa and Homer, and I think that was a very, very nice way to cap off an excellent episode.
It was great acting from Yardley. Like, it's actually like a very good fit of rage that she delivers.
Mm-hmm.
No, there's so many dimensions to Lisa's emotions in this episode. Like, she'll be kind of moody. There's one part where, like, she gets super fucking excited just to have him over for dinner. It's like, can I have wine? Are you having wine? Does Bart have to be there? Like, she's all, like, giddy. Like, there's, like, this nice spectrum of feelings. It's not just like, oh, it's another Lisa sad episode. I feel a lot for her throughout the entire runtime.
I guess one could say she's quite moody.
Yeah, she's a moody girl. See you later,
When
girl.
it comes to her personally, it's definitely one of the big milestones of her character. It wasn't until Mr. Lisa Goes to Washington where her political views start to define her as a character.
Yeah, that too, for sure.
Like, she's the outspoken liberal of the family, and sometimes she's the neo-lib who goes too far.
The environmentalist, the feminist.
But Moaning Lisa is a great introduction character, too, even for season 1. It's sad how it deals with, like, mental illness with her.
Yeah, but I love her bond with Bleeding Gums Murphy. I was tempted to talk about this one, but I just think this one has more substance.
Yeah.
Speaking of Bleeding Gums Murphy...
Yeah, I've had my say on Lisa Soaps, too. It's definitely the one. And always remember, you are... insert name here.
Yes.
That is the message.
That's an amazing woman.
Very good.
Alright, Josh.
Alright, so my pick is one that I believe Lyle did touch on in the Golden Age episode, but especially in the last month or two, I feel like it is incredibly poignant. Although sometimes depressing, it does end on a very heartwarming note, and I'm going with Round Springfield.
Yes!
That's a good one.
Jasmine testify.
That scene is really beautiful on its own, but as a sort of sequel of sorts to Moaning Lisa, when someone you believe in and you consider a hero passes away, it's incredibly crushing.
Yeah.
And just to see Lisa basically having to cope with it alone because her family can't relate. There's a scene at a funeral where she is literally the only one there. And although it's lampshaded that Dr. Hibbert might be his long-lost brother, there's never really that idea brought up again until decades later in a completely different season. But just the way that Bart is able to come through for her at the end, and a miracle allows this record to be heard by the whole town. And yeah, the little James Earl Jones cloud gag. just the end where they both play jazz man again with him in the clouds. It really brought everything together, and it's showing that yes, Lisa can be a know-it-all at times. She can be very outspoken, to the point of detriment, but she is still an 8-year-old at heart. And when you're a kid, you have a hard time understanding death fully, and this is, I think, the best example of where there are some things you just don't have the answer for, but she still makes the best of it.
I'd also like to point out that it's actually one of the few episodes where something that a plot point that is brought up in the very beginning of the episode actually has payoff at the end, because Bart gets a stomach ache and no one believes him.
Okay, I know that it's a tough episode dealing with death, but that is a fucking tough episode for me to watch, with him swallowing that fucking piece of metal in that cereal.
The jagged crustio.
God, that's just a phobia of me. Oh, no.
You're always afraid you're going to eat something bad?
Something foreign that just you swallow and it's not supposed to be there, and it will cut up your... no.
Well, the payoff for that, though, is Bart ends up helping the hospital, because now the entire class wants their appendixes removed.
Yeah. And no one shows up to school.
Well, because Lisa was the only one who believed that Bart had a stomach ache and possibly saved his life, because appendicitis is not to be trifled with.
I always remember the Bill Cosby joke. He's like, you see, the kids, they listen to the rap, which gives them the brain damage. You see?
You see how Stark Raving Dad
is deleted, but
from
that's
Disney
fine.
Plus, but that sequence is okay.
Yeah, Bill Cosby getting off easy, huh?
Yeah.
Round Springfield is just, I think it's one of the more wholesome Lisa episodes solely because it's not her being a mouthpiece for the current writers to put out whatever ideas they want. It's not her acting like she knows more than everyone else and getting offended for it. It's just a concept that no matter how old you are, you're never really going to fully understand.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Let's go with Evan.
Okay. So, it's not... this episode is kind of hinted that Lisa's a nerd, but no other episode until the last episode of Season 7 really deals with how Lisa feels about not being cool. Summer of 4'2" is,
whatever.
Whatever, exactly. Review over, let's move on. Hey, Cody, what's your pick? So anyways, it's the beginning of summer, and no one signs Lisa's yearbook on the last day of school. The family goes on a vacation to a beach house on the Atlantic Ocean somewhere, and
I believe it was Flanders' beach house.
it was
wasn't
yeah
it?
no. They don't have the Simpsons don't have a beach house because Homer sucks with the money.
They can fly anywhere around the world. But
Because they can almost be millionaires until they're not.
So anyway, so Lisa decides I'm gonna be cool and I'm gonna be the cool kid when I befriend the local cool kids. So she meets a teenager and her friends played by guest star Christina Ricci, and they become friends, and Lisa wears a tie-dye shirt, a sideways ball cap, whatever. If it was cool in the mid-90s, she wore it.
It's another outfit that you can change in Hit and Run, by the way.
Yeah. So Lisa goes dressed as that, and she starts talking differently. But the thing is, you'd think that having Lisa be cool would be played for laughs, but no. They do have a few jokes, but Lisa being cool isn't actually cringy. When she acts cool, I get a sense that she's still being herself, but just a little differently. She's spiced up a little. When there have been plenty of tropes in television where the nerdy kid tries to be cool and it's the dumbest thing ever.
I'm glad you brought that up.
But it's not dumb to watch Lisa be cool. Yeah. And it actually makes me feel for her when Bart gets jealous and barges in with, "Hey guys, you want to see how cool Lisa Simpson really is?" I actually wanted to physically assault Bart when he did that to her. That's one of his lower moments.
That whole scene, though, when they're throwing her up on the sheet, and you can see the camera move in and out as Bart's He's like, "No!" And he's like, got the yearbook, and he's like nodding. That, like, zooming in and out, you can see there was a lot of effort going into that. And then there were, like, the nicer moments, like, even Milhouse comes along for some reason, but they play that board game, and of course they make the joke about him being the dud.
Well, okay, Milhouse, the way he gets treated in this episode is the highlight for me.
Yeah, the reason why Milhouse was invited is because Marge is like, "Bart, you can invite Milhouse. Lisa, you can invite a friend too." And then Lisa doesn't have any friends to invite, so that was, Milhouse being there was to kind of split that difference.
I guess Janie was on vacation too or something.
Okay.
They didn't bring her up.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, she was on a vacation from being relevant.
This episode completely disregards Janie the character.
Yeah.
Well, to be fair, Lisa doesn't really have like a best friend that she hangs out with all the time.
Except for the beginning of Flaming Moe's, where she has like a slumber party going on. Remember they were trying to get Bart to give him a makeover? I'm like, where did all these friends come from? What the hell?
Yeah.
So, also, this episode ends with one of the most heartfelt things you'll ever see in The Simpsons, and also one of the funniest jokes.
Merciful crap! My car!
Yeah, I know.
Oh, the emotions.
Like the seagulls are everywhere.
So then
that was funny though, but yeah, I know which one you're going.
So basically, the kids basically decorate the Simpson family car with seashells and ocean local artifacts because that Lisa taught them about life by the ocean when they had that beach party. And I thought, wow, they really, despite the fact that they thought she was a dork, they actually really valued her presence. And what's the name of Christina Ricci's character?
I can't remember.
Aaron.
Aaron. Aaron says, "We never cared who you were, and you can't fake the good person that you are." That's I think one of the most important things any friend can ever say to a person. It's deep shit, yeah.
And it ends on a Beach Boys song.
Yeah, it does. Of course. And then, so it's a nice little moment, and then what Josh said. Homer just freaks the fuck out. Because, what the fuck happened?
Yeah. They put dead things all over my car.
No, the way he just says that line, "Sweet merciful crap, my car." The way he delivers it is so funny.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah.
And as an aside, this episode also even has, it sort of delves into just like some of the other family members' experiences there. Of course, Homer, it being a 4th of July episode, which we're recording this a day after July 4th, but the whole thing about Homer wanting to get fireworks and then he lights it but realizes he has nowhere to put it, so he just crams it in the dishwasher.
Oh my god. All that black smudge just fills up.
Cartoons.
He couldn't
even, right there.
He couldn't wait a day. He couldn't wait till that night to set it off.
You could just take it out of the house.
The same reason why you hear fireworks for 4 straight days or any time during the summer, because
Yeah.
It got scratched that itch somehow.
Wasn't it Flanders' cabin that they stayed in?
It was.
Poor
Yeah.
Flanders.
With this episode in particular, it being a season finale for season 7, you can really feel like it's a transition point for the show because they're definitely trying to move stuff forward and at least progress the characters more.
Now, the episode, this song, this song didn't come out until years after I saw Summer of 4'2", but when I heard the song "Cool Kids" by Echo Smith for the first time, I thought this song reminds me of Summer of 4'2".
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you showed that to the group, I listened to that and I can hear it definitely.
Yeah, for sure.
Because Echo Smith, it was like a mid 2000s, 2010 song that
No,
sounded like
Cool Kids, I think, was from 2013 or 14.
Yeah, it was an early 2010s episode, early 2010 song, sorry, and it sounds like something you would hear in the 90s. That's what I liked about
Hey,
it.
Evan, do you ever listen to Simpsons Wave? Or Vaporwave Simpsons?
Yeah,
I should probably get it.
Wave.
I should probably get it.
We never addressed that, but there's like all these videos on YouTube where people like add all these 80s retro filters and all this like synth music. It's based on Vaporwave.
It's Vaporwave, but with like Simpsons visuals. So if you're already into Vaporwave, you would definitely want to get on this train. But if you're not big on Vaporwave, it may not sway you anymore.
Vaporwave basically hits you right in the nostalgia feels. It always makes you feel a lot older.
It's the filters, honestly. It's the way they're edited.
Yeah.
It's pretty interesting content. I would recommend you guys check it out.
Yeah.
Yes.
Interesting.
Commander Cody, prepare my pipe for an immediate boil. I gotta get into that.
Okay, let's keep going.
Yeah, sorry. So, my favorite Lisa episode, Lisa the Vegetarian.
I was close to picking this one, but you beat me to it.
Because I love how after this episode, the show sticks with her life choices.
Yeah.
That becomes a thing that carried out throughout the entire show afterwards. It doesn't just retcon it.
It was a note that Paul McCartney gave to the showrunners.
Yeah.
It was a change they had to do if he wanted to be on the episode.
Except that one time where, like, she didn't totally eat meat, but she kind of did.
Was that where Bart slingshots meat and she's like, you ate meat, and then she slingshots veggies, you ate veggies.
I don't remember that one, but
yeah, I remember that.
But after a day of going to the zoo, when Lisa befriends with a little cute happy sheep, she suddenly starts to realize, wait, what was the difference between me loving animals in real life and eating the animals? So she starts to make a choice, I'm not going to eat meat anymore, and this starts to create friction in the family because they're all carnivore meat eaters, and especially Homer.
Yeah.
Deciding to make a barbecue. A BBBQ. A BBQ.
The extra B is for BBBBB.
What's the extra B stand for?
That's a typo.
And it shows that her character is really growing, and it sticks with that. And a lot of funny scenes in this, like with you can still eat. You don't have to eat lambs. You can eat chicken breast, rump roast, hot dogs, and it's a combination of like a tongue on a boot, a rat tail.
Because
that's
why I hate hot dogs, because there's too much artificial shit in a wiener.
It can be made of anything. Really.
Also, hot dogs, I don't like the taste of hot dogs. They're disgusting.
But it even goes as far as her feeling guilty about dissecting little, even like insects. Because whenever Lisa, don't dissect me.
What did I ever do to you?
Why does the worm sound like a lamb? And that fucking Troy McClure.
With this episode as well, it does also show as big as it has Lisa stick to being a vegetarian, it shows one of her major flaws in that when she sticks to her ideals, like she even over sticks to them.
Yeah.
Like to the point that she sabotages the barbecue simply because she has an issue with Homer.
Yeah,
she
that poor pig.
Of course, leading to, it's just a little airborne, it's still good, it's gone, Dad. I know.
Hey Smithers, I think I'll donate if I start to see pigs fly. Is that a Pink Floyd Animals reference?
The term "when pigs fly."
If you want it to be, it is.
No, but the shot, even like the towers in the background and seeing a pig fly, it kind of reminds me of that album cover.
I mean, that's entirely possible. Yeah. But "when pigs fly" is a common expression.
Okay, yeah. I wanted to get your musical takes on that.
It's like when hell freezes over.
Technically, they do two "when pigs fly" references in the same season if you include Homer Palooza.
Yes.
And I would argue that is the proper animals reference, the inflatable pig.
Yeah,
for
yeah,
sure.
for sure. Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. I don't like it when Lisa like shoves things down other people's throats.
But that's a good thing.
But
that
they
you
do
brought that
address
up.
that.
They do address that, and what's nice is that she learns from Apu, who kind of comes out of nowhere in the episode too. There wasn't anything that kind of set it up. It's like a Deus Ex Machina of just Apu saving the day.
But it kind of helps give Apu character development at the same time.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
at that point, we only knew a little bit about him from Homer and Apu, and that was
Oh,
2 seasons prior.
I will get to Apu later.
Oh yeah, for sure. Nothing Apu. But,
Yeah, but like it helps. It shows that like just because you believe in something that's different from somebody else, it doesn't mean that someone is automatically lesser as a result.
Wow, what a groundbreaking quote that the internet should take on.
Yeah.
And about your opinions before you decide to put your fingers on the typewriter and press a comment,
I will
think
say,
for a second.
I will say this: the garden that Apu has above the roof of the Quickie Mart is absolutely gorgeous.
You can go in there and
I
take
would
runs.
love to
Hit and
see
run,
that
yeah.
garden in like the new animation style, because they could really actually make it a lot bigger than it is. Make it like really dense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, and then I love the secret entrance to the garden. It's like, what do you do if someone wants non-alcoholic beer? You know it's never come up.
you get Paul and Linda McCarthy making a great cameo.
McCartney, yeah.
Oh, sorry. Might I say McCarthy?
Paul and his
Paul
late
Linda
wife,
McCartney
his
is there,
late
yeah.
wife Linda. Yeah.
Yeah. All really good stuff. That Troy McClure educational video was hilarious.
They can't expect us to eat that tribe. No, children, please help yourselves to this tribe.
Now, of all the Beatles cameos they've had over the years, maybe I'm biased because Paul's always been my favorite, but that one's my favorite for sure.
Yeah, well, that actually one has a message because when Ringo guest starred, there was a point to
That was
it.
super early on in the show.
George
too.
Harrison was just there.
He's kind of
His star power was the guest star, not George Harrison himself.
Yeah.
And when you're talking about the dynamic between Homer and Lisa, I really like the way they ended off this, where she does respect the fact that Homer's going to probably continue eating meat. And the fact that Homer, because it's so in character, he's dumb, he doesn't understand, but all he wants to do is make her happy, so all he's going to do is just not give her meat.
Yeah,
It just ends with a nice little cute, piggyback, or is it veggie-back?
yeah, that was nice.
And then, who cannot love an episode that ends with "Baby, I'm amazed" with a pig soaring through the sky?
Yeah.
Like,
And we can't forget Apu's lovely rendition of Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club.
oh
Band.
my God, I'm gonna leave now.
Yeah.
Don't
Yeah, just like Lisa
I
Lett.
don't know if them bopping along to it is they genuinely enjoy it or they're just humoring him.
It's funny how
Probably
they don't
both,
say that
knowing
Apu.
Paul.
It's funny how they don't say that Apu is a vegan, but that's what he is.
Mhm.
I just don't know if that was a term back then, but
No,
I get
it
what they were
wasn't
As
trying
an
to do.
animation point, with Paul's eyes, or Linda's eyes rather, it's nice to actually see that they can animate pupils in colors other than black.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
No
noticed
kidding. Yeah.
You don't really see that with many other guest stars or regular characters, unless it's like for the purpose of a joke.
Did Linda Ronstadt have like animated, nice looking?
Yeah,
eyes?
she did.
Yeah.
Sort of, I think.
Kinda.
Yeah.
I'm very
It
vague
was
on
a
that.
glimmer, yeah.
Maybe some nice mascara.
Well, as your song says, time to live and let live. Actually, it was live and let die.
Whatever. It's a catchy tune. Yeah, no, it's a character defining moment for her that I'm happy carries out throughout the whole series, and the fact that they respect each other's views at the end. It's like, everybody watch that episode and take away
It's like the
respect.
episode. It's like the episode where she becomes a Buddhist too.
Mm-hmm.
That one episode,
Richard Gere. Yeah.
which also transitioned and became a milestone for her character too.
Mm.
Didn't have time to mention that one, but it's a worthy shout out.
Well, Lisa, thank you for listening to that. Well, if you excuse me, I'll be in my room. What kind of catchphrase is that? Whatever.
All
All right. Well, let's now move on to the gentleman of the family, but let's spin it around. Let's go the other way. Starting with Bart. Let's take it away, Evan.
Okay. Lemon of Troy.
Excellent choice.
Bart needs.
Is a part of us all. 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 Sorry for repeating it, but it'll help you remember.
It does.
It works. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, Bart is. I chose this to be a Bart episode, but this is one of the few episodes where all the principal kids except Ralph.
I'll mention him later.
I don't know why Ralph was singled out of this episode, but
Yeah.
all the kids who we typically see around Springfield. This includes Martin Prince, Nelson Muntz, Milhouse, Van Houten, and even Data makes a comeback, but
It's
not
like
when.
Matt Groening's least favorite character makes an appearance in this
Data?
episode. Yeah, he hates that character.
Oh yeah. So
Database.
Data wasn't really the last time Data was a character was
It's Database.
was actually Database was the last time he was a character was also in a Bart episode, Bart's Comic, but we're going to talk about Lemon of Troy. So Rod and Todd Flanders, I believe, go as well. So basically, after Marge's little lesson on town pride and the Shelbyville kids steal the Springfield lemon tree, the Bart takes a bunch of the kids from Springfield and they lead a reconnaissance and recovery mission to find the stolen lemon tree and bring it back to Springfield. In true comedic fashion, that Springfield and Shelbyville are clones of each other.
Yeah.
So
that's genius.
Yeah, so I love how
after all this time
by Shelbyville, when Bart skateboards past Shelbyville Elementary, you see the groundskeeper in overalls, and you think, oh, it's another Willie. It's a female Scott Sling. Slow down your sidewalk skewing gleamers. And then, oh, it's a female Willie. You get to see what Willie would look like as a woman. Also, there's Joe's instead of Moe's, and at the local convenience store, instead of an Indian clerk, it's a Chinese clerk. And so, which, that's really true, because most convenience stores, at least where I live, are staffed by either brown or Asian people. So, but yeah, so it just kind of harkens back to the stereotype. So,
what if Kim's Convenience was set in Shelbyville the whole time?
Maybe, yeah. Now, also, they also show Homer's Shelbyville doppelganger when they actually do find the lemon tree, and it's in an impound lot, and Shelby, that's the name of the kid who is basically the Shelbyville equivalent of Bart. And speaking of
Shelbyville, clever.
Yeah, so the kid Bart's Shelbyville equivalent is a kid named Shelby, and Milhouse's equivalent is also named Milhouse. I thought I was the only one. A pain I know all too well. So, this is what it feels like when doves cry. Aw, poor Milhouse. But anyways, so, when you see Shelby's dad, the idea is he's a clone of Homer. He's a dumb, typical American buffoon. I love, Shelby's dad. It always reminded me if you fused Hank Hill and Homer together, I feel like you would get his dad.
That's true. They both have meme potential.
Yeah, it's like, that tree's been in our town since the time of our forefathers. Give it back or we'll bust it here and take it. Bust it here and take it? You must be stupider than you look. Stupider like a fox. And then they get...
When Shelby's dad eats one of the lemons.
Yeah. And it's called Lemon of Troy because they actually get the lemon tree back via a Trojan horse inspired stunt. So that's it's a fun episode. I like the adventurous aspect of it, and it's also cool to see kids that you normally think would never get along have to work together, like Martin and Nelson. Hark to the tale of Nelson and the boy he loves so dear. They remain the best of friends for years and years and years.
There's a YouTuber that I brought up before on so to speak about Patrick H. Willems.
Oh yeah.
He did a episode about what's the perfect Simpsons episode in terms of its writing, and he picked Lemon of Troy because after watching that there were a lot of more setups and payoffs in that episode than I thought of initially.
Oh wow.
It's packed. It's loaded. Like everything that is essentially set up in the first act, even if it's subtle things, have a payoff and come into play in the third act. Like, little things, too. So I highly recommend people watching that one if you want to deep dive into that episode.
Right.
Also,
and a trait that this episode goes into that they really should consider more of is Bart's surprisingly natural leadership and charisma. The first example was Bart the General, where he was able to rally all the kids together to defeat Nelson. And here he basically rallies the entire neighborhood back for actually a very noble cause. Mm-hmm. And it shows that as much as Bart likes to think he's an underachiever, if he actually committed to, being a solid, expanding on that leadership, he could actually go somewhere.
And isn't it funny how the episode starts with a fantasy of Bart being worshipped by future generations as, a noble character, and like, you will be our new god. And the end of the episode, Bart is the town hero.
Yeah, if you replace Bart with, like, TJ Detweiler from Recess, the episode would still work.
It would, yeah.
Oh my god, Lemon of Troy is recess, school's out. This explains everything.
No, you're absolutely right.
Which, ironic that's 20 years old now, too. Oh, I'm old. I gotta watch that.
Shelby even has a.
Now, let's all celebrate with our beet juice.
Shelby even
Where's
looks.
the turnip?
Shelby even kind of looks
turnip.
like. Shelby even kind of looks like TJ Deadweiler.
Yeah, with the backwards hat.
You with the backwards red hat.
For sure, yeah.
Well,
that's it.
actually, this would have been season 7, so it would have been like 95, 96.
No,
Recess only started, I think, in...
I got correct you. Season 6.
97, right?
No, that would be 95 or 6. It would have been a year or two before Recess started, but who knows? Actually, one of the co-creators did work on The Simpsons in the very, very early season 1 days. I think, like, he worked on Simpsons Roasting on an Open Fire, and then I think he left after Bart the Genius, I think. God, the tangents.
The connections between all these shows is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Alright, should we...
Tinder.
Yeah.
Scandalous. We should probably carry on.
No, that was a great pick, though.
Yeah, that's an excellent
Eat
pick.
my shorts, Shelbyville. Eat my shorts. Yes, eat all of our shirts.
Alright, Josh.
Okay. My Bart pick, I actually had to give some thought to because I didn't realize how relevant it actually is until I rewatched it recently. And from season 5, my pick is Bart Gets Famous.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Josh, say it.
I always
Josh,
feel like I have to
Josh,
double check what season it is.
Josh, say the line. Say the line.
I didn't do it.
Yeah!
It's funny because you just blew out your own speakers again. Now, I didn't go into this initially, but it actually is a really brilliant and biting meta-commentary on what it's like to be a viral superstar for a week or several, and especially in what I sort of consider the age of hyper-social micromedia in things like, TikTok and stuff like Snapchat, or even when Vine was around, the idea of such short pieces of content that can be seen hundreds of thousands or more times over, especially for kids, when there's any modicum of fame or when you're known for anything outside of your small group of people, that can be a really terrifying and scary thing to overcome. And, the fact that Bart becomes the new hit thing in America for a matter of time, it's also a really interesting reflection from the writer's perspectives on how big The Simpsons had become by that point.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Everything is a fad. Fad is one
It
letter
is,
away.
and the fact that it pokes fun at all the different merchandise Bart gets the same way that by that point the show is riding that train as hard as they could.
At the beginning of that episode, is that the one where Bart comes down the stairs and he's whistling the Simpsons theme, and then Marge just says, "Bart, stop whistling that annoying sound."
That was
the one.
But yeah, it even starts with poking fun at himself. But it's also like Bart does take it in stride. But the whole point is he goes viral because he unintentionally does it by messing something up. But the more it goes on, you can see that he's trying to keep, he tries to keep doing it because that's all he knows. But even when he's on Conan's show, he you don't dance. Only I may dance.
Yeah.
Did Conan ever
It's
do?
a bit
Did
underrated
Conan
in
ever
it
do
still
that on his
holds up
show?
because you look at the husk of the show today, and a lot of it is doing everything to keep itself relevant. I brought this up before we recorded, like the fact that in the last 8 to 10 years, there's been things like having an opening, a couch gag that's basically the Harlem Shake, having characters floss, referencing things like cryptocurrency or medicinal cannabis. Whatever topic is hip and trendy at the time the episode gets written, and by the time it actually gets fully produced and aired, it's a year or two later, and it may have already dated itself. Bart Gets Famous is about fame is fleeting, but enjoy the ride while it's there.
Yeah.
Like I said, fad is one letter away from fade, as they say.
Wow. Now, I hope kids of the world have never had to suffer through the boredom of a field trip to the box factory.
Hey, at least SpongeBob would dig it.
Oh, that's true. I mean, what kind of kind of box factory are we talking about here?
I even love the little dialogue between Bart and Krusty. Like, Bart is trying to remind Krusty of all the times he's helped him out over the years, and the fact that Krusty still doesn't remember him. It's an interesting parallel. You could almost say it's almost like that saying, "Never meet your heroes."
That's exactly what it is.
And it kind of shows that at the time, or I mean, it can even be relevant for this time, the sort of intelligence of people's sense of humor, how it's sort of deflating. Where Krusty devotes, after Bart does this line that picks up and it becomes like a phenomenon, he has a segment on his show where all Bart does is walk into a room, breaks a vase on the floor, and he goes, "I didn't do it," and then the whole fucking crowd thinks that's hilarious. It's painting commentary on how it's like that's just lowbrow as you can get, and it still gets a laugh.
And Krusty still tried to suck off the fame of that.
Yeah.
Even at the time, it is still. The reason why they went with that is it's the same thing as any major character in that era, late '80s, early '90s, having their own catchphrase. That's all you become known for. And even though Bart's had a few of those over the years, at the end of it, he kind of just goes back to life as it was.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Alright, next, Lyle.
Okay, so I had a tricky one here. I was very tossed between... I was tossed between a very classic episode from the early era or an episode that's so far in the future that probably most people haven't seen it. So I thought I'd give a shout out. I decided, no, I won't talk about Bart versus Thanksgiving because a lot of people talk about that one. I'm going to talk about season 23's... yeah, there's a 23rd season, Cody.
Oh, what?
It's out there. You'll see
the
it
one
eventually.
with Lisa Goes Gaga that I'm dreading.
Oh wow, what a rebel. He's actually going post-Golden Age.
Post-Golden Age, yes. And this episode is called A Totally Fun Thing That Bart Will Never Do Again.
You talked about this in The Abyss, and it actually sounds like a really cool episode.
Yes. We've mentioned it a few times in this episode. I'm going to break it down. So, you ever been in a rut? You ever had, like, weeks just burned by because you keep doing the same damn thing over and over again?
All the time.
And yet you feel
No, and I want that stricken from the record.
Yes.
Welcome to life.
Welcome to life. And that's exactly what this episode is. It's basically welcome to life. Bart's incredibly bored with himself. He wants a change. And he sees on a commercial that, oh, I could go on a cruise. That'd be a great thing to do. And he actually really tries his ass off to earn the money. He basically sells all of his earthly possessions to get this cruise. And it doesn't really pan out. But then the family's like, you know what, Bart needs this. So they all pitch in. And they get on the cruise. And this... have any of you been on a cruise? Just wondering.
I have
Yes.
not. I have
Okay,
not.
Josh has been on a cruise. Where'd you go?
It was almost a decade ago. It was like somewhere in Mexico, somewhere in Jamaica, somewhere in the Caribbean. I forget the exact area. I think it might have been Haiti.
Oh, nice.
But
Tropical cruise.
Everyone's experience is different, but for me it was more like I didn't like the idea of being stranded in the middle of the ocean with nowhere else to go if you didn't want to be there.
So you went on a tropical cruise. I went on an Alaskan cruise.
So I'm not exactly going to help prove your point here.
I went on an Alaskan cruise. I can tell you I had more fun just being on the cruise ship than the actual locations because it was very cold out there.
Well, I mean, it's Alaska. You could have had your own epiphany if you wanted to.
Yeah, I should have had my own epiphany. My epiphany was it's embarrassing when you have a pajama party at the kids zone, you accidentally rip your pants trying to do a split, and you have to walk your sorry ass all the way back to your room to get a new pair of pajamas.
Damn.
While hyperactive on sugar, so that was that. But anyway, so like this episode kind of comes to a head where Bart has pretty much the time of his life, and everyone for once, the whole family has the time of their lives. They get upgraded all the way to like the best room in the entire like ship, and yeah. But then it's kind of dawns on everyone that, oh yeah, we're gonna leave. We're like halfway through the trip. We're gonna go back home, and life will be the same again. Bart doesn't want that. So he fakes a pandemic by taking some movie that hasn't been released yet and just posting it in front of the entire PDA system. There has been a pandemic
On land.
an inland pandemic, and we all must be in quarantine. We cannot return to land until it has been blown over or something.
Another
like that.
topical episode.
Very topical too. That one hits a little
Because
close to home.
Well, COVID-19, when it started spreading, the first places where outbreaks happened were actually cruise ships, not hospitals, oddly enough.
That's true.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Because they were Asian cruise lines where Americans were going, and someone from Asia got the bars from China, and then it spread to a couple of Americans, and then it's like, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, traveling abroad definitely does help the spread for sure. But what I love about this,
I can understand Bart's mindset for doing that, because when you're a kid, the idea of going on a vacation somewhere you really enjoy, you never want that to end, because it's a break from the ordinary, and you know that you're likely never going to be able to experience that in the same way again.
Yeah, it's kind of like a snow day or a 3-day weekend. Like, it's just those very few moments where you actually have a little bit more extra freedom. And, you know what? One thing I really love about it is, at first you think Bart's being selfish. You think he's just, he just wants to have as much fun as possible at the expense of others. Because the ship does go to shit after a while because they run out of supplies and stuff. But what's great is that by the end of the episode, when they get exiled to Antarctica or something, because like they were going there anyways, and everyone's in the ship's mad at him, you think Bart's going to be like, he's going to be sorry. He's like, oh, I'm sorry he's being so selfish. But the reason why he did is because everyone in the whole family was happy. Like Homer and Marge, he was like, oh, you guys have been more in love than I've ever seen you in my entire life.
Wow.
And Lisa, you got to experience all these worldly things. Like, he actually thinks the trip was a benefit for everyone in the family, and he wanted that to last forever because, the dysfunctionality is going to return when they go back home. He wanted to have that peace all to himself. And I think what the best message of the episode is, ultimately, life is not like a downward slope. It's peaks and valleys. There's many moments in your life you're going to think, oh, it's going to get worse from here. But there's lots of moments that you'll experience all the way throughout that you'll treasure and hold dear to your heart. Because ultimately, all you'll keep by the end of it all is your memories. And that's why it's important to experience as much as you can. And I thought that was an incredibly touching message. And I'm very glad, like, even critics, like, when the episode came out, I was like, this is one of the very few episodes where I actually felt an emotional moment from Bart. Because normally he's just like a prankster or something, but this one tapped into something that I don't see too often. Not since like Bart sells his soul, which is a good comparison to that episode. So yeah, and it has some very great music from some other bands like Hot Chip and Animal Collective.
Oh, nice.
Animal Collective. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, it's an excellent episode that I think needs more credit, and if you haven't seen it, definitely give it a watch.
Thank you for providing me with a little bit of hope in my Simpsons binge.
Yes.
I know there's going to be a few episodes that I've heard are great, like that one Christmas episode.
You mean the Halloween episode?
No, there's a Christmas episode I've heard really good things about it.
Oh, Christmas is a Future Past?
Yes, that one.
That's a great episode too.
I don't know anything about it, but I've heard great things. But on that note of feeling emotional about Bart, I want to talk about my Bart episode that is the beginning of that idea that Bart is a brat but with heart.
Yes.
And that is Bart gets an F.
Oh boy!
So you substituted your pick for season 23 character, or sorry, you substitute your season 2 pick for season 23. Well, we're back in season 2.
Yeah,
the one that I theorize is this the finale of season 1?
Bart was more popular than Homer. So,
yeah,
of course. There's a lot of good Bart episodes this season. So yeah, tell us about it.
This episode focuses entirely on Bart, and that's why I love it. Like, the Simpsons family is like very sidelined in this, and it's very simple. The first half of it is it's just all procrastination. Just Bart trying to find some excuse to not write his tests and try to like just hang out at the arcade or watch Itchy and Scratchy and all that. It's very slice of life. And finally, when he writes the test and he flunks it completely, Carabba puts her foot down and says, that is it. Your grades are just plummeting and we need to do something about it. So with the help of J. Lauren Pryor coming back from Bart the Genius.
Yeah.
I feel so bad the way he looks down on Bart, because if you watch his attitude in Bart the Genius and then Bart gets an F, he's looking so highly on Bart in that episode, and then he goes to just being so disappointed that it's almost like Bart is proud of his underachieving. And the whole stakes of this episode is that Bart has to do really good on this test or else he has to repeat the 4th grade. Which I guess he does for the next 30 years anyways, but that's beside the point.
I'm glad you addressed that. I was just about to.
The first half being sort of just like a hangout, sort of a hangout kind of vibe, where it's just sort of loose and like not really plot driven.
Yeah. Spends a lot of time with Martin too.
And Martin is the funniest part of this episode.
Remember how I
because
said
he bargains with Martin to be like, if you help me get good on grades, I'll make you be cool. And Martin really loves the transition of becoming cool.
Now, you remember how I
Yeah.
said that when a dweeby character tries to act cool, it's
Yeah.
either funny or annoying?
Yeah.
In Martin's case, it's hilariously annoying.
And it's my big first laugh from Otto. Where
Oh,
he's
yeah.
like, "It's okay, Bart, relax. I got held back in the 4th grade myself, twice, but look at me now. I drive the school bus." And there's like a long pause.
Bart just gives him the deadest stare. Like, dude, you're pathetic.
A fun fact, it's the first appearance of Mayor Quimby.
Oh, yeah?
After the snowfall, and when he's like, "I hereby declare this day to be Snow Day,
Mhm.
the greatest day in Springfield's history." It's the very first time we've seen him.
Oh,
Wow.
wow.
He didn't come in until season 2. And a mind-blowing thing, when they all lock hands and they're all singing Walking in a Winter Wonderland, guess who's in that crowd?
Ooh.
Sideshow Bob.
Oh, really?
What the fuck
Yeah.
are you doing there? This is before he marries Selma or when he runs the election.
And after he almost got crusty busted.
Wasn't
This
he? Wasn't he?
this is
Wasn't
after.
he? Is he,
Yeah,
was
I
he
said
supposed to be
after.
in jail?
Yeah,
that's what we're talking
that's my whole
about.
point. This is before he marries Selma, runs the election, stepping on rakes. He should be in jail right now. My favorite line in the episode is, well, before I get to my favorite line, it's just the second half of it. You really start to see Bart really generally trying to study.
Yeah, he
And
puts
we've all
his head
been
in
there
gear.
before.
Gets
Like
his
the heart-
ass in a gear.
Mhm.
The hardest we try, and like if we come out even failing, it's like it's heartbreaking, right? And even when he's trying to study, him trying to put his mind into the
Yeah, he's horribly distracted.
he's horribly distracted. The
Yeah.
fact that there's a snow day, that his fantasy is distracted by the fact that there's a snow day.
John Hancock.
Look, John Hancock's writing his name in the snow. That's my favorite line in the whole episode. That is too clever. And then after all that, he fails. And in a scene that, not the first time I saw it, but one of the few times that I watched it afterwards, the only time that The Simpsons actually made me tear up a little bit.
Mhm.
It's actually a pretty heartbreaking scene. And you can see the animation, kudos to them. Like, this is still early stages in the show. You see the clenching in his face, and he's just breaking down, crying.
Yeah.
Like, I tried, and we've all been there before. Like, the lesson of it is just, even no matter how hard we try, we can still fail. But at the same time, your smarts can also pay off in some ways, because he actually was a little bit smarter in areas that even Kerbaba was like, oh,
yeah,
shit.
he's good at oral
Vis-
communication.
visual learning, like audible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she's
Not
like,
visual.
you get an extra point. And you know what? In a scene straight out of Tommy Boy, I relate to that. Because when I took a course in college of construction, I suck at math. And when I got out with a D- just passing, oh man, I was both Tommy from Tommy Boy and
oh my god.
and Bart. I passed
passed.
with a D-.
I'm
I
going
passed.
to graduate!
It's-
I wish I knew you, because you seem a little awkward.
Yeah.
I'm gonna graduate!
Yeah. What happens to Bart is, I think, very realistic. Maybe even more realistic, because we see what happens when the kid studies again, and this is coming from someone who has a brother who actually was he was an underachieving student, but at his elementary school graduation, my brother got the most improved student award in front of the
Nice.
whole class. So that
Oh,
was
that's
really
nice.
to see.
That's encouraging.
That's awesome.
It is. So the point is, yes, while studying can pay off, and it doesn't always pay off, and
That's
Bart gets it.
that's why the episode is so great at
Yeah.
tackling both of those lessons at the end.
It's one of the very few times Mrs. Krabappel actually has empathy
Some
for Bart.
sympathy, yeah.
Yeah.
well,
Well, at first she's like, another year with you, it's gonna be hell. But then after she kind of feels a little bit bad,
It's like, why are you sad? You should be
Like,
used
she
to
gained
this
some
by
respect for him.
yeah, like a 59 is at least a high F. Like she's trying to look at some bright side with him. Yeah.
well, no, he goes from an F to a D, and she upgrades him from an F to a D-, which passes him.
That's nice.
And then he kissed the teacher.
And he puts it on the fridge as a nice little
Very
cherry
nice.
on top.
Well, it was a setup where they put Lisa's homework on the fridge because she got an A earlier in the episode. Yeah. But my quote to end off on it is that, back then people were criticizing Bart Simpson as being a bad influence on kids, of being that troublemaker. And Bart gets an F as the episode that shut everyone up about that and said, this kid is a brat but with heart.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's a character-defining moment for him.
Absolutely. And a good note to end on when it comes to Bart, too.
Yeah, thank you, Bart, for joining us today.
No problem, dudes. Now get out of here.
I don't. Well, that didn't.
And we
sound
take
like
the
it.
at least you tried cake, and we start cutting it and serving it.
Now, speaking of intelligence,
Oh,
it's on to
And
the
dessert.
and dessert. It's now on to the fucking no introduction, Mr. Homer J. Simpson.
Yeah.
The J stands for J.
J-A-Y.
All right, Evan, please take it away.
Oh, okay. What I'm going to talk about... Okay, so I've seen a lot of people and organizations on YouTube channels that have said, this episode is the greatest episode in The Simpsons history. I don't claim to have a greatest episode in Simpsons history pick, but I do think there is an episode that stands out as, if I was ever in a situation where I would have to pick my favorite Simpsons episode of all time, this is the episode I would pick. The Homer-centered episode, Secrets of a Successful Marriage.
Oh.
The plot of this episode is, Homer starts to fight feelings of inadequacy. Homer decides to go to either take an adult education course at the community center or teach an adult.
But Marge, every time I learn something new, it pushes old information out. Like, remember the time I forgot how to learn to drive?
It's like, remember how I took that home winemaking course and I forgot how to drive?
You were drunk!
And how?
Okay.
Wait, if Lenny can teach a class, then you can teach a class. I mean, I can teach a
Okay,
class.
so here's the thing. So, the only way Homer can teach this class about building a successful marriage is if he actually provides really intimate details about, like, what he and Marge do in the bedroom. This gets...
And, like, not to downplay that teaching tactic, but he's not wrong. Like, the idea is using real-world anecdotes is one way to teach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, except being Homer Simpson, he takes it to inappropriate levels, and when a line gets crossed, Marge kicks him out. Now, we had seen Homer and Marge's marriage tested before
Numerous times.
numerous times in the show.
Mhm.
They show the marriage get tested, but every time one of them gets to choose, their husband or wife, perfect or imperfect as they are, they stick with them. Not this time. For a good third of the episode, you actually get the sense that Marge and Homer's marriage might actually be over after this episode. And this was the finale of season 5. Imagine going into a season 6 with Homer and Marge separated.
That's a good point. That kind of creates stakes.
I
don't know what the marketing was for that episode back then, but if they had like a TV spot like, will Homer and Marge break up? That's a great way
Season
to...
finale.
See, in 1994, they didn't believe in the concept of what is now known as a ratings trap.
Yeah.
They would later,
So-
but they still had their ideals. back then.
But that was the finale of season 5, and Homer and Marge's marriage is tested more so than it had ever been on the show at that point, because in later episodes there will be the show would later go on to explain how, you know, Homer and Marge's initial marriage from the lore of the show was actually null and void because of a technicality. They show that, but also they would have season 14 to have a whole whack of episodes where Marge and Homer's marriage is tested. I mean, every other episode in that season, their marriage is tested to the point where it becomes a cliche. But then later on, you'll actually see, you know, in the future drama, Homer and Marge actually do separate in a futuristic timeline. So it goes to show, like, you know, that their marriage is on thin ice at times, and it could fall through at any point. It still managed to last 30 years, but just to steal from the Deep Fat Fried podcast, which when they talked about The Simpsons, they said this: what if the series ended with Homer and Marge getting a divorce?
That would be a horrible decision.
It would be.
I don't think they say end the show. They want to have a season where
have a season where for the whole season, Homer and Marge are split up. They
Okay,
What?
yeah.
A cartoon actually evolving its storyline?
That's my point.
Well,
Well,
that's impossible.
It would be like the death of Brian Griffin, but done better. Because
not just a couple
The
episodes.
Simpsons had so many opportunities to do that, like actually age them.
yeah,
as the show goes
I mean,
on.
like, obviously, like, don't you love it when, like, a plot from an early episode makes you, like, question how the show could have evolved?
Yeah.
That's why, okay, not only are not only is this a powerful story episode, but when I was looking at people's reasoning for picking the greatest Simpsons episode of all time, I never knew, Cody, that Lemon of Troy was a candidate. I've never seen any essays, but now I want to about why Lemon of Troy is the perfect Simpsons episode. But I did see WatchMojo.com say that Last Exit to Springfield was, in their opinion, the greatest episode of all time, and I didn't understand why. But then when I listened to their rationale, I'm like, okay, yeah, now I understand, because the jokes in Last Exit to Springfield pop so much. Their jokes are very frequent, they're very funny, they're very memorable, and the story is also very powerful.
And what cartoon show have you ever seen at that time that actually tackles like the union disputes and all that?
No,
like,
my
it's very
point,
matured.
It was very matured.
Yeah.
And not only does it cover a deep topic, it's very funny. The reason I brought up Last Exit to Springfield is because Secrets of a Successful Marriage is that kind of episode for me. It deals with a very serious topic, but the jokes in this episode are fucking funny. Like,
every teaching course at the annex.
Yeah, no. It's like,
say some gangster
I was
is
gonna say-
dissing your fly girl.
Just
You
give-
give him one of these.
So
I was about to ask, is that the
See that
episode?
pink
Yes, it
down
was.
means
and then
It was
and who could forget if I want to see a man eating the orange, I'd have taken the orange eating class. The eating
They
of
say
the eating,
YouTube it.
the eating of an orange is just like a good marriage. Just eat the damn oranges.
My favorite part is when Homer's living in the fucking treehouse.
Oh, yeah.
And Lisa's bringing him pudding.
yes,
It's
plant
like,
Marge.
here you go. Hey, look, Lisa, I don't need your mother anymore. I created a perfect replica that's almost like her in every way.
It's like
Dad, that's a plant.
Lisa, you will respect your new mother.
It's like-
Now kiss her. Kiss her.
it's like
Falls
Tom,
to the ground.
it's like Tom Hanks in Castaway.
Oh my god. Now let's get our story straight. She fell, right?
It's like Tom Hanks in Castaway when he's like,
Yeah. Oh, and
I will talk about Homer replacing Marge
yeah.
later.
I also,
I
but
also love in the beginning, it's like, do you have any qualifying abilities, Mr. Simpson? This is roughly, well, I can tell the difference between butter, and I can't believe it's not butter. No, you can't, Mr. Simpson. No one can. It's impossible.
Oh, and who could forget? Hey, just don't yell at Homer just because he's a little slow. Somebody said, not good. Don't yell at Homer.
Get the hell out of
No,
here.
don't.
the hell
No, it's like,
outta here.
don't yell at Homer. No, that's okay. Slow. He called you
Oh,
slow.
they called you slow.
How dare you call me that? What? Hey, Homer, you're still here? Wow, you are slow. Somebody said, not good. Get the hell out of here. Like, the idea is he stays, it takes him
And
until...
they come back to that poker game narrative at the end of the episode, too.
Oh, yeah?
Mm.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
the
it's like,
home-
I
the
think
home
Marge
around.
is still there.
Yeah.
The home around is really initiating a lot of quoting.
A lot of shouting, too. Jesus.
Yeah.
That is a good choice. That is
That's
a good
a- that's
choice.
We're getting
solid
into
choice.
character.
An underrated choice, for sure.
Alright, Mr. Josh.
Mr.
Take
Josh.
it away.
Okay, well, I would have
That was
initially
secret-
gone with either an episode that has aged super well because of how, well, I say aged super well, but unfortunately has become increasingly more relevant today, or one that is incredibly quotable and enjoyable and puts Homer in a really interesting position in terms of, how he's viewed by not only his family but the town. But instead I decided to go with one that gives him a greater sense of depth as a character and his sort of emotional backstory, and that is Mother Simpson.
Oh,
Yay.
yay.
The first introduction of Mona Simpson, but you really get a sense that Homer, since he was a child, has always sort of lacked that other half of that sort of like that like sort of love and affection, because his mother disappeared so many years ago, and now that he finally has it back, he's really trying to make up for lost time. But as the episode goes on, you can already kind of tell that he's not going to get the happy ending that he really deserves. And that final scene is the perfect show, don't tell sense of writing. And it's sad, but yet sweet at the same time.
Hey, Josh, define the word rhetorical.
Yes.
I don't know if you remember that part. Yeah. Like, no,
I kind of do,
the
but
song is
Oh,
like
and
rhetorical.
the fact that Glenn Close does so much to make Mona a really enjoyable character.
Yeah.
For sure. You awful man! Get out of my son's grave!
Hate to rain your parade, lady, but this is my grave. Wait, Mom? Homer? I thought you were dead. I thought you were dead. Well, ain't anybody in this dang blasted cemetery dead?
Well, I didn't mean to cause a fuss, but now that you mention it...
No, the part I was referencing was
Is that Great Digger
how,
Billy?
how many times must a man walk through? 7. No, Dad, it's a rhetorical question. It has no meaning. Rhetorical, eh? 8. Or something like that.
Dad, do you even know what rhetorical means?
Yeah,
Do I know what rhetorical means?
yeah. What an elaborate way to get out of work, too, what he did at the beginning.
Yeah.
Oh no, he fell off the waterfall. Oh, it's okay. He latched onto the branch. Oh no, the branch broke. But it's okay.
Oh, good.
And it sort of leads into Homer finding Mona and that she's still alive because he thinks her grave is actually Walt Whitman's. It's like, damn you, Walt Whitman, leaves of grass my ass.
You know what? Homer kicking the grave, that actually reminds me of how I felt about season 6 Breaking Bad. Damn you, Walt Whitman! I hate you, Walt freaking Whitman! Leaves of grass my ass!
Walter White though.
Yeah, Walt.
It's because it's Mother Simpson is about Homer really trying to come to terms with stuff when he was really young, and like even talking with Abe about it, it doesn't really help that much because like Abe's part of the problem as to how it got to that point.
Yeah. Your mom died at the movies.
And we also know how horrible Mr. Burns' memory can be, but how the hell does he remember as far back as recognizing Mona from when she was
Because I think he remembers that over other trivial details in his life is that
Because she destroyed his
she
lab.
destroyed his
Maybe.
germ warfare lab, which would have
Definitely been a milestone, and I
Remember-
influenced it again.
He remembers Homer's mother, but not Homer.
oh my god.
And also,
Yeah,
it was a great payoff too with Chief Wiggum when he comes back after she helped him with his asthma.
Now,
Look, I can talk normal now. Ha. Ha.
Well, that's another. I'm just like you wouldn't think that Mona had a lot of impact on someone other than Homer, but it does show that like she actually played a small part in shaping a bunch of other characters'
Yeah.
lives as well.
yeah,
She's like Lisa's role model after that point.
yeah. And also, I like
Maggie,
how,
And Maggie, yeah.
yeah, I like how, oh, and then I like how, never noticed how, like, Mr. Burns is the reason Homer's mom has to stay in permanent hiding. So given that, you think Homer would stick it to the man and never work for Mr. Burns again. But no, for the rest of the show, Homer will not only work with Mr. Burns, he'll go to a fucking log cabin in the woods with him.
Unfortunately, just because people have good morals doesn't always mean they can stick to them 100% of the time. You know, because if you take something to the nth degree, it's like you can't really support much of anything.
The only time Burns showed any sort of humanity, and I want to not even humanity, it was like almost like a big boop in his heart, and whatever shriveled heart that he has, was Rosebud.
In Rosebud and in King Sized Homer, that's the one episode where he isn't a complete dick.
It's ironic that King Size Homer is the one right before this. So you go from Homer not wanting to work, wanting to gain so much weight so he could work from home, to like Homer trying to help his mom get justice
Yeah, for sure. That's a good one. Heartbreaking.
against his employee.
The
It's
ending-
heartbreaking, but it's the beginning of a sort of trilogy, as I call it, of Homer really getting to understand his mother even more. And while there are episodes like Dawn in the Wind and is it How I Wet Your Mother? I think that one, where
Yeah,
like you
that
get a
one.
bit more to the Homer and Mona and Abe's family dynamic.
That was good Inception.
Mother
parody.
Simpson is real. This is really where it's all encapsulated really well.
Because the show is so comedy driven that occasionally when they'll have a moment like, you know, you are Lisa Simpsons or you are Lisa Simpson or do it for her or that last shot of Mother Simpson. It's like the show will have that rare heart to it. And it's strong and it's not sugar coated.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So, I feel kind of bad because the pick I picked was the one I considered like just one of my favorite funny episodes.
No, it's fine. No, mine.
And all you guys, most of you guys pick very emotionally centered ones.
Oh, I'm about to I'll get to yours. But...
It's so hard to pick a Homer episode.
Yeah.
There's so many classics.
There's a lot.
And this one, the one I picked, is kind of an overlooked classic in my mind. I think it's because it comes right after Deep Space Homer. The one I picked is Homer Loves Flanders.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody together now. Nacho Man.
I want to be a Nacho
A
Man.
Nacho Man.
Yeah, so this is an episode in which, for once in his life, well, like, they do it later on in the show, but this is one of the few times Homer actually starts to like Flanders, and that's because he wants to get 2 tickets to a Super Bowl game.
I got 2 tickets to
Paradise.
paradise.
I want to break down all these moments, but yeah, I'll talk about them later. But like, he wants to get tickets to a game. He doesn't get them. He tries and fails. But Flanders just so happens to get them. And despite really not wanting to get from Flanders, he spends a day with him. And he actually starts to realize that Flanders is a really great guy. He had an incredibly good day with Flanders. So the rest of the episode, Homer gets a little bit too close to Flanders. He gets a little invasive. Kind of causes a lot of heartache with the family and a lot of headaches.
Will you breathe with your damn mouth?
There we go.
Yeah, so I didn't know the exact line, but yeah. So that's just the plot. But what I love about the episode is there's so many moments that are just quintessential Homer. It's like he has a dream he has like a daydream where he thinks about having a wig.
Yeah.
And he pretends to be Marge with the wig. He's like, I love you, homie. Now I don't need her at all anymore. Or he loses his Flanders takes the tickets. He's just mad. He hits the thing. The radio's like, I got 2 tickets to paradise, and he's just being along. He's listening. He's loving the music. It's like, oh, that was an excellent solo. And then when Flanders actually comes over to like give him the tickets, it's like, dear God, I know I don't say this enough, but please give me those tickets. Hiya, Homer. Why do you offend me, Lord? Homer, that's not God. That's a waffle that gets stuck on the ceiling. There you go. I know I shouldn't eat thee. Sacrilegious. Oh, and I cannot mention that bit where he just seeps through the bushes to talk to Ned.
Oh, it's become a gif.
Yeah.
One of those classic gifs in our day and age.
Probably one of the greatest
Classic
gifs ever
memes
made.
that the show has then lampshaded twice since.
Yeah. Even directly, they have like an app, and it just shows that scene as a GIF. And then there's the epic Terminator 2 reference.
Ah, yes,
Faster, Nettie, faster! I can't! It's a Geo!
There's the golf clubs.
Oh, you must not have heard me.
You must not have heard me.
And then yeah, so many great moments there. That's what I love about the episode. It just has so much quintessential Homer humor. Everything I love about the guy is just. And then Nacho Man is probably the moment I actually recorded that, and I just always have it on my phone because it makes me. It warms. It giggles.
It cheers you up.
It gives me the giggles, I guess. It gives me the giddies. So yeah.
It's fascinating to see that, like, with Homer, he goes much too overboard towards Ned, much the same way that Homer always sees Ned going overboard towards him. And in a way, they do balance each other out on the odd occasion they work together. Like, there's this. I forget which episode it is in the teen era where Homer and Ned are, they team up to be bounty hunters.
I think it was.
I don't know if that's Sex, Pies, and Idiot Scrapes or if that's a different one.
Yeah, like that was in the 20s actually.
No, Sex, Pies, and yeah, technically you're right. The premiere of season 20, Sex, Pies, and Idiot Scrapes.
There you go. Yeah, that's always seen as a great Homer and Ned episode. And then there's others like the one where they get married to the ladies in
Troy,
Vegas.
because they're using Flanders' RV
His poor RV.
to mount the.
I think we can all relate to one of those friends that just does not go away.
Yeah, when you have a new friend and you get so attached and you feel like, am I being a bit much? Am I being a Homer Simpson right now? I always get that feeling sometimes. But yeah.
Homer Loves Flanders is really a much more comedic, extreme version of when Flanders failed from season 3, because in that one, the end is like Homer realizes the error of his ways and helps everyone band together to save the Leftorium. This is just Homer and Ned become friends, but then Homer, being Homer, takes it too far and the status quo is restored.
Yeah, that's another thing about this episode. It's surprisingly meta. Like, Bart and Lisa are just, like, always questioning, like, hey, what? Oh, great. Now Homer's friends with Flanders. And Lisa's like, don't worry, Bart. All you have to do is have a snappy comeback, and then everything will be back by next week. Sure enough. Get lost, Flanders. Oakley dokley.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if that's a sign of the Simpsons writers getting a little bored or just like a sign that they know what's up, but that part was great. But I digress. I think it's time to move on.
Alright. So yeah, when I mentioned in the Golden Age episode that it was a toss-up between Homer the Great and another certain episode of being a Homer, or my favorite choice of that season, it's funny, I was gonna go with Homer the Heretic because I love that episode to death and I always throw it on, and even though it has one of my favorite moments of him curled up in the bed like, I'm just a big toasty cinnamon bun. I never want to leave this bed. Probably one of the most relatable moment in the Simpsons history. I always feel like that every January. There's one episode that I feel like is the definition of topical that I needed to go for. And that is Homer Bad Man.
Oh, boy.
That's a...
Yep.
Yes. So, after going to a candy convention and salivating over this rare gummy Venus de Milo that Homer steals from the place, it gets stuck on the babysitter's pants as he was driving her home.
Or the back bottom of her pants.
Yeah, and instead of being a gentleman, like, excuse me, you have something of mine on your pants, Homer inexplicably grabs the candy, which the babysitter mistakes him of sexually harassing him. And the next day later, Homer gets canceled and Me Too'd.
At the same time.
At the same damn time.
Well, is he really canceled if the media can't stop talking about him, like, for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week?
Yes.
It's not so much... Okay, this is what I was like, it's not about, like, getting canceled, but what the thing is, like, it's just... It's the Simpsons' poignant take on the media frenzy whenever a celebrity does something... Not even does something! If a celebrity is accused of doing something bad.
Yeah, and I know, and as I said, it's topical, and obviously today, like, I encourage...
Thanks to Twitter, all you have to do is write something.
Well, I just encourage, people that have had, like, something horrible happen to them in the past to come forward, obviously, but, like, I look at this episode as, like, as you mentioned, Evan, a great example on how media can really twist everybody's perception, even if you haven't heard both sides of the story yet.
Also,
because literally Homer right away tries to clear his name by saying, I was just grabbing a piece of candy that was stuck to her pants. And I like how they're like, yeah, right, that's the oldest excuse in the book.
That's a pretty creative excuse, if I'm being honest.
And it just keeps going and going.
Oh,
and
it gets better.
They ridicule him right to the ground.
Yeah, and it gets better. It's like, I don't know Homer Simpson. I've never had any contact with him, but I'm sorry, I can't go on.
Tonight
That's
on,
okay.
That's okay. Your tears say more than real evidence ever could.
Tonight
the
on
whole
Big
point of it being a satire of mob mentality and the fact that if all people focus on is the one perspective, then confirmation bias is still very much a thing, and it's easy for that to get lost in the shuffle. That a lot of false accusations come up just as much on that as well. Plus the fact that it's like Homer that gets accused of this and not like it's interesting because a lot of people forget that these things happen from the male perspective as well, in terms of when it comes to things like sexual assault and stuff like that. It happens to the opposite, like to the male gender as well. The stigma is that men don't necessarily talk about any sort of emotional trauma they experience.
Well, look at what happened.
Look what happened.
Look at what happened with Brendan Fraser and Terry Crews. Like, those are guys that, for years...
Corey Feldman.
And Anthony Rapp.
Those guys could not come forward because, like, you know, if the stigma around women is just as bad with not being believed with sexual assault, how do you think men feel when they actually are sexually assaulted?
Yeah.
And even when Homer is asked to go on that show Rock Bottom, which is a parody of this
TMZ
90s show Hard Copy, which was the 90s version of TMZ,
Yeah.
Homer sells his side, and of course they do the manipulative editing, and they have the whole, like, the ideal victim and the ideal perpetrator.
The manipulative editing scene is the funniest part of the episode.
Yeah, like,
And I like how in such a short period of time you can even see the clock in the background change.
Yeah.
From him
Yeah.
saying like, all I was doing was grabbing
it
that
pauses
sweet candy.
when the shot is clearly paused and it's all distorted.
No, Mr. Simpson, don't take your anger out on me. No, Mr. No! Dramatization may not have happened. Yeah, help me, God! And then he gets a phone call from God, Free Jones, from Rock Bottom. No, there's a lot of even in the midst of, like, you know, you want Homer to clear his name. That's the whole motivation of the episode. But like, there's so many funny parts even before that, like the Pop Rocks and Coke bomb
oh,
that was
that he
great.
throws into the crowd at the
yeah.
candy convention.
Homer basically just commits grand theft and gets away with that.
Of course.
It was
he
like
committed
a
arson. He committed arson at a candy convention.
And we never see most of those people again.
Yeah.
And then I guess Disney's happy that they have this episode under their belt with the Under the Sea parody.
Yeah, as previously seen on...
That's actually one of my favorite quotes. Homer, that's a solution to everything. To move under the sea. It's not gonna happen. Well, not with that attitude.
Or just the media saying, like, who would believe this? Homer sleeps nude in an oxygen tank, which he believes gives him sexual power.
Hey, that's a half-truth!
Like, who the fuck would believe such a ridiculous
It's like,
thing?
wait, half-truth?
Great,
Which half?
meaning longer
I believe-
events, we use it in the pejorative sense.
I believe that is Homer Simpson, not clearly a turkey roasting in the oven, but he's rotating slowly.
Yeah. And I love... also,
There's
remember...
the whole thing about with the TV poll. The 95% of people believe Homer's guilty and 5% don't. But keep a note, there is a 5% margin of error, and of course, this is just a TV poll. Unless Proposition 504 passes, and we're all praying it will.
It kind of... also, who could forget that this incident, this scandal's been going on for like, a week or something?
Yeah.
How long is the media's attention span? Like, this was probably the worst 2 weeks of Homer's life.
Oh, yeah.
So, in that 2 weeks, Hollywood was able to write, direct, and produce a biopic about Homer Simpson with Dennis Franz.
And they completely fabricated it, too.
Yeah, I know. They have him do a bunch of shit he didn't do, like deliberately run over a cat.
Now it's time to grab some sweet.
And they make the babysitter even more innocent than she actually was. And they make her younger, too. And then they even do a Bill Clinton jab where it's like, with the man in the White House, not likely.
Yeah, then
The way the episode wraps up itself, it's interesting because it trades one stigma for another, and it basically, again, it just shows that, like, they just moved on to the next victim.
Yeah. And then Groundskeeper Willie is the new villain.
Well, even though that he saved Homer.
To make a Nickelback reference, they moved to their next contestant.
Here comes the next contestant. I hate that fucking song.
Yeah.
I had to go for the
It's ironic that Willie is now the next target, even though that he saved Homer, because he videotaped the altercation happening. I don't even say altercation. He recorded the incident happening. And then Marge says, now, an even more topical and timeless line, as long as everyone is videotaping everyone,
that's my favorite quote, my entire favorite Marge quote.
Justice will be done.
It allows people to really to become journalists themselves in a way, because they can provide a perspective that isn't necessarily filtered through any sort of ideas that major news networks want to convey.
The reason why she got a Pulitzer is because thanks to that video, the cop who knelt on George Floyd's neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds, he's going to jail for over 20 years. Like, he got a life sentence for that.
Yeah.
That wouldn't have happened in a reality where it wasn't filmed.
And the greater message Homer Badman tries to convey is that there are so many other situations for both genders where you know, they don't have anyone else really on their side, and they have to fight it themselves.
Hey, that's a good point, because the babysitter that starts the whole scandal is an active feminist at a college, and she's actually kind of sexist when she walks in to babysit the Simpson kids, because she's like, "See, Lisa, males aren't hard to tame. They just follow their video game cartridges."
I think she said boys.
What's interesting about that is
No,
that
she
there's
said
not
males.
really, when it
Oh.
comes to stereotyping males, no one really bats an eye for that. But it's when it's the opposite. It's more like either poking fun at both gender roles is okay, or none of it should be okay. Which I know is a very black and white way of looking at it, but it's like it can't be one is okay and one isn't.
Yeah, and the lesson at the end is don't believe everything that you hear or read.
Yeah. Question everything.
Yes.
Brought to you by Disney.
Brought to you by Disney. And if anyone's out there that is going to watch, like, Homer Badman and then Marge in Chains, just try not to be so sad and realize that, you know, that's today's day and age that we live in. There's some other episodes that are pure escapism. But I brought this up because it is pretty topical, and Homer...
On a lighter note,
Yeah, no, I was about to say, like, Homer kind of gets his... after the whole show, like, of Homer being such an idiot and such a jackass throughout the whole show, he does, and yet he doesn't deserve his comeuppance in this episode.
Yeah. The way he reacts, it's like, "Oh, that man is sick. Grouse Kimmy Willie saved you, Homer." Like, "But listen to the music. He's evil." Dad, hasn't this experience taught you anything? Lisa, as far as Daddy's concerned, I haven't learned a thing.
like, Lisa, my dear, I haven't learned a thing.
Yeah.
As he's kissing the TV.
Yeah. Let's never fight again.
Never fight again. Oh, and that also is a call back to another one where, like, Lisa and Bart are hugging the TV, and Marge's like, "Are you hugging the TV?" "No."
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Alright, so where do we go from here?
Well, thank you, Homer, for hanging around here. Am I supposed to do something now?
That took like 2 hours.
Okay.
That's what
Did I have to
say.
do anything?
Well, yeah, that is the Simpsons family, but why don't we just do one quick round and do our favorite side character episode? I'll take it away.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just to spin things up.
Okay.
I went with A Fish Called Selma.
Yeah.
Because not only does this follow one character, it involves two. Troy McClure and Selma.
Yep.
And we learn a lot about Troy McClure in this episode in ways that we are kind of unfortunate.
Yeah.
How much of a jackass and a diva that he is.
Well, I think
An
we
ego
always
monster.
knew that, but now it's like under the sheets.
Yeah, now we see behind the curtains who he really is.
The whole episode starts with a scandal of him having problems at the aquarium.
Which is a play on Richard Gere and the gerbil thing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That was definitely a nod to that. Yeah, Troy McClure wants to help out his image by getting married, so he picks the ugliest woman that he can possibly find, Selma. I feel so bad.
You think
for
she's
her.
uglier than Patty?
I mean, it's hard to judge. I mean, I just feel bad for her in general that she's victimized on this, being used.
Well, at the same time, it wasn't the first time she married someone for the short term, nor was it the last time.
No.
Oh yeah, Sideshow Bob.
It's insane how
Yeah.
many people she's married throughout the show's history.
Yeah.
Not really much I want to say. I just like how the Simpsons family is like in this for like what 5 episodes? 5 minutes or even less.
Minutes.
Yeah.
Like like it's really.
Did you already mention the Dr. Zayas thing?
He can talk. He can talk. He can talk. He can talk. He can talk.
I can sing.
Oh, help me, Dr. Zayas!
Dr. Zayas, Dr. Zayas, Dr. Zayas, Dr. Zayas, Dr. Zayas, Dr. Zayas. Oh, Dr. Zayas, Dr. Zayas. What's wrong with me?
I think you're crazy.
Want a second opinion?
You're also lazy.
Dr. Zayas, Dr. Zayas. That is excellent.
Welcome to
Broadway.
So to
you
Speak
poke machine,
beatboxing.
That is excellent Broadway. I
Yeah.
fucking love that.
Chimpanzee
To chimpanzee.
No,
You'll never make a monkey out of me.
Oh my God, I was wrong. It was Earth all along.
That's my all-time favorite Simpsons song. I love it.
Oh boy, I
Fucking
do.
monkeys doing the breakdancing and
Yeah.
doing the Saturday Night Fever pose. I
Yeah.
fucking love it. It's so beautiful.
Man, the whole episode's beautiful because it's such a nice showcase of Phil Hartman.
Mm.
I think it's
Oh,
Phil Hartman's
absolutely.
shining moment on
Absolutely.
the show.
Absolutely.
Especially that last shot. It's like, oh, it's too soon, dude. Too soon.
Well, it's just like, I'll remember you, but not from your shows or movies, your films, whatever it was. It's great, and it shows that like Selma evolved as a character where she's not going to put up with this bullshit and stick around because she totally could have. And it's such holy shit! Do they run that? You might remember me from da 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 to like the ground in this episode.
Including your dinner.
I also like how they incorporate the Muppets into the the Muppets Go Medieval.
Dad, what's a Muppet?
Well, son, it's not quite a
sock,
sock, it's not quite a puppet, but it's not quite a sock, it's not quite a puppet, but man.
And there is a really funny gag in there when Marge finds out what Troy McClure is doing. She's like, they shut off the lights and Marge's eyes are still open at night. Marge, can you close your eyes? I'm trying to sleep. Goes to black. There we go.
Because, by the way, Homer was told by Troy, like, at point blank range, what's going on.
Yeah.
Because, like, Troy spills the beans to Homer and
Spills the bleach.
spills the beans. Yeah. Oh, God.
My bleach, the goggles, they don't work!
By the way, remember,
My eyes, the goggles do nothing.
remember Jub Jub the iguana? How like he's even a character in this episode.
Yeah, she carries him off at the end.
That's all I have to say, guys. It's very short and simple.
Let's keep up the pace.
I do like the fact that it's totally centered around two characters almost the whole time.
Yeah. Okay.
Evan.
So, much ado about nothing. Just like Homer Badman, this was a very topical episode.
Probably the most racist episode in the Simpsons history.
Yeah, well,
it's so.
It's
Also
not only is it
now on Disney Plus.
not only is it really racist, but you know. By the way, remember that scandal where there was talk of Apu being canceled?
Yeah.
I referred people to this episode on why he's not just a racist character. Well,
They treat him like a person.
they treat him like a
episode.
person.
Okay,
So
good.
here's the plot. The town decides to vote on the issue of deporting any illegal immigrants because they
Because
use
a bear happened.
because illegal immigrants become a scapegoat yet again by the powers that be. Now the issue is if the Proposition 24 passes, Abu will be deported back to his native India. So the town. No, not even the town. The whole town gets really racist on people. Like they turn on everyday characters. Like Uter gets bullied at school, and I remember, and Apu is even getting protests outside the Quickie Mart.
So why do you like this episode?
In Uter's case especially, Homer had already ragged on him and Lisa on Ice, if you remember.
All right, yeah.
Don't
And
make
then
me
there was
run.
and then there was
I'm full
Never
of
Cafeteria
chocolates.
as well.
No, Uter was bullied specifically for being, a foreign exchange
They
student.
do Uter so dirty later in the show.
They really do. Yeah.
Oh.
And not only
Treat him terribly.
Not only that, so basically, why I love this episode is because while the whole town is against him, even Homer at first, Apu is eventually won over because when he starts, doing everything he can to not be deported, like he tries to fake an American identity by ditching his accent and actually, putting American flags all over the Quickie Mart, and he starts breaking down because it's like, I want to stay, but as the real me, not some Yahoo from Green Bay. And it's like, you're right, because there are tons of immigrants that I'm sure, like, I know immigrants personally that have had to hide their heritage because to avoid racist attacks. Yeah. Like Chinese people, apparently there are we in Canada, we have a large Asian population, especially in Toronto. A racist assumption, not that I have, but other people have, is that every Asian-looking person is from China. That's hardly the case. While, yes, there are tons of Chinese people here in Canada, there are Asian countries other than China, and a lot of these countries basically have to hide the fact that they're from where they're from, and they just say, "Oh, I'm from China," because if they're told that they're from like someone else, like if they're told they're Vietnamese, if they reveal that they're Vietnamese, they could be the victims of really nasty attacks. So, and having to hide your accent and having to speak English and embrace the culture around you when really your culture is from somewhere else.
So that's why we are down. Wait, how's that chant go?
No
more.
On 24. No on 24.
Proposition 24.
It's starting to look like a country bear jamboree around here.
Yeah. And also, and then I love how, like, the way the episode begins, like how this whole mess even starts, is with a completely unrelated incident.
Mhm.
But it's one of the funnier unrelated incidents.
But it has like a good backstory to Apu as well.
You actually get a sense of where Apu is from.
Yeah.
Because, okay, Homer and Apu was the episode that came 2 seasons earlier. You don't know a lot about Apu other than that he loves his job. In this episode, you learn that he loves his country.
Yeah.
And the Simpsons do actually help him study for the citizenship test, and he passes. So Apu legally becomes a citizen, and he's not deported.
He's actually one of the most intelligent characters in Springfield.
Oh, he totally is. Like
he's right up there.
Isn't that interesting?
He graduated.
That now all of a sudden they want to get rid of one of the more intelligent characters.
He graduated from
Yeah,
a
because of his
technical
race.
institute in India to study computer sciences at the University of Springfield. Apu is a genius, but the fact that he's stuck working a Joe job managing the Quickie Mart, it goes to show how much potential like immigrants have, and that goes to waste when they have to.
It's a very realistic scenario because it's something that a lot of people go through when they emigrate.
Yeah, exactly. And the other reality is illegal immigration and, get the hell out of my country isms. That has been a topic of primary discussion for the last 5 years because we recently had, the United States had a president that was very anti-immigration and anti.
Or as you would say, they went through their being edgy phase.
Oh yeah, no. Well, Trump let a lot of conservatives off the leash with their anti-immigration rhetoric, especially when he called for a complete shutdown of Muslims entering the United States.
Yeah.
So, like, this episode is very relevant today, and even with Trump gone, like, the topic is still like fresh and true, especially with what Vice President Kamala Harris recently said that was very controversial about people coming in through the southern border. Like, she said, do not come here, and a lot of people aren't happy about that. It's, like, especially people who voted Trump out.
So now we can put this episode in the topical
Yes.
episode bin.
Much about nothing.
With regards to illegal immigration or legal immigration or immigration, I believe coming to Homerica, is that not where they get deported?
Yeah, that's another one.
What season was that?
Later.
Ooh,
That's all you got.
20, I think.
Oh,
the season
okay.
finale of season 20, I want to say.
Oh,
Well,
yes, I did see that one.
There also
Yeah,
is an
yeah.
episode. There
I
also
remember
is
that. The wall, right?
There
Yeah,
also
the wall.
Yeah.
There's also an episode where Homer, where the Simpson family flees America over a stupid crime. Well, that was a parody.
Oh, yeah.
That was
Mangled Banner.
Bart Mangled Banger.
Yeah.
That was the Simpsons writers giving the finger to the Patriot Act because through a series of petty bullshit, the Simpson family is accused of treason, and they get sent to Alcatraz.
Are we sure Seth MacFarlane didn't have a hand in writing any of those concepts?
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's a good
So
one.
is that all you have to say about Much?
That's all I have to say about Much Ado About Nothing.
The ending's kind of weird though with Much Ado About Nothing because doesn't a character still get deported regardless?
Yeah,
Housekeeper,
that's
Willie,
the joke. It's like, yeah, no, we love Apu because we love Apu. He's awesome, but fuck Willie.
I totally forgot about that.
That episode.
Yeah.
That
Oh, well,
episode.
he gets the last slap with My Fair Lady here.
That episode takes the piss out of Willie. It really does.
Yeah.
Oh god, between Treehouse of Horror 5 and that, they were really dunking on him.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
All right, Josh, what's your character? Who's your side character?
We've touched on this one already because, again, with Season 8, it's between one of two episodes for everyone's favorite, and if it's not one, it's the other. I gotta go, Homer. Someone ate part of my lunch. So, you only move twice. I love it that much. Yes, Hank Scorpio is the best Albert Brooks voice character that he's ever done throughout the show's history. And you could argue it's more a Homer episode, but just Hank Scorpio is the Bond supervillain that we never got. And if a Bond supervillain was as funny and witty as Hank is, I would watch a lot more James Bond films.
Yeah.
There's a lot of nuance with his character that I really appreciate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Also, Hank Scorpio reminds me of a teacher that Josh and I had in high school.
He reminds me of a boss I had at a vegan cafe.
Oh, yeah.
Super chill, very lax, got along with everyone. The vibes in that place were so good. I didn't get paid very much, and the hours were terrible, but it was one of my better jobs.
Yeah.
That's kind of what Hank Scorpio represents.
It's like he's very charitable with his time. He gives Homer a lot of great advice. I mean, obviously he's got that subtle supervillain side, but the way that you never actually see that fully unleashed until the very end. And even when like Homer basically has to resign because he realizes his family hates it in Cypress Creek, Like, well, Homer, I'm disappointed, but I understand. By the way, if you want to kill someone on the way out, it would help a lot.
Would you like some
Like,
milk
just
with
he's
that,
got
Homer?
all the one-liners that he has.
You know it's-
really makes it a great episode.
You know it's a Hank Scorpio episode when he has his own theme song.
Would you also like milk with that, Homer?
No, you forgot the part. It's like, do you have any sugar
Like,
for this coffee?
We don't have
sure.
bums, and if we did, we don't have bums in this town, Marge. And if we did, we wouldn't rush them.
Oh.
Somebody ate half of my lunch.
We've already talked about it a lot in the Golden Age episode, but it's still fantastic.
It's great.
Yeah,
He certainly leaves an impression.
definitely. I feel kind of bad. I almost wanted to do like the Frank Grimes episode, but I picked something else.
Oh.
From the same season, too.
Yeah, from the same season. So my next pick is Ralph Wiggum with I Love Lisa. I always loved Ralph because, like, yeah, some of the times he is just a non sequitur machine. But his quotes, I freaking love that the writers say writing for Ralph is so impossible, I guess,
It's
because
difficult.
you have to kind
They
of...
still are learning.
Yeah, it's like you have to, like... I mean, these are all, like, super smart guys behind the writing room, so they have to, like, think 10 steps backwards to throw the audience off. But with I Love Lisa, it's one of the few episodes that actually really humanizes Ralph. This and this little Wiggy's another good example too. But this one, it's centered entirely on Ralph, who had a really shitty Valentine's Day. No one gave him a card, and Lisa, out of charitability and pity, gave
Just
him
to
a
be
card.
nice.
Yeah, and Ralph takes it a little bit more seriously than she expected, and he starts to develop
It's a
feelings for her.
relatable thing because I'm sure most of us have felt that way when you
Oh,
have
yes, I can
feelings
relate
towards
to
someone,
this.
especially as a kid when your social skills are not super developed yet.
No.
You have an excellent point, yeah.
Yeah,
Anytime any girl was ever nice to me, I was like, oh, they like me. Then I have to love her.
Yeah, no, I had a situation exactly like that in high school, but I don't want to get into that. And Ralph is just like incredibly cute in this episode. He's like, so you like stuff? You gave me a card that you choose me.
Is this the
That
episode
was
that
funny.
reveals that Chief Wiggum is the dad?
I think so. Yeah, it's the first episode where we actually realize that Ralph is Ralph Wiggum, Chief Wiggum's son.
It's awesome.
He gives him not so great advice about women while slamming walnuts with the butt of his pistol.
And also getting chocolate out of your pants.
Nothing against chocolate.
Oh, and telling inappropriate stories about how he went to a porno theater
It's
with
like,
crusted
That story isn't appropriate for little children.
Well, in this story, I keep my pants on.
Whoa!
No, this is my Valentine's Day go-to episode.
Yeah, quintessential
When you
Valentine's
look at
Day
Ralph
episode.
here, he's probably the most fully fleshed out as a character because he has the beats. He actually takes him through an arc, and he actually is able to be a very convincing actor if he wanted to, instead of just being the I'm in danger.
Yeah, the meme
That kind of
is-
like an easy meme or go
Yeah.
banana. Lines like that. With this, it's like he gets picked to play George Washington, and he plays George Washington the only way he knows how.
by
and that,
destroying
like,
the card.
When he finally does but shouldn't we give in to the British? No! Like that, if Ralph was like that, I'm pretty sure that the writers would actually take it more seriously if they decided to write him like that.
Yeah.
What president was he confusing it with when he sat in the chair and he was
FDR.
FDR, yeah.
FDR
That was
and-
funny.
Leave me alone. I'm here
Theodore.
to play George Washington. And like the fact that all the girls want his autograph afterwards, but he still just wants to hang out with Lisa on the swings. Like it's such a wholesome resolution. So it's like, yeah, he can grow as a character.
I also love
I
how
just wish they kept that.
another aspect of the show I like, after establishing Wiggum, he is, like, despite being a terrible cop, he is an incredibly patient father. He is very, very good with Ralph.
Yeah.
He treats his son with a lot of
Unlike
respect.
Homer, saying to Lisa, "Don't let your conscience bother you," and then it's like, shoulder angel, Homer, that's a terrible thing to say. Oh, shut up. Yes, sir.
Come on, Ralphie. Attaboy. And also love
I
that
kind of feel bad for him a little bit because he goes through so much crap.
Oh yeah.
Just because Homer wants to take advantage, Mr. Simpson, the tar fumes are making me dizzy.
They'll do that.
They'll do that.
Yeah.
She's in the can. Go away.
Yeah. What else? I also love the completely irrelevant use of Monster Mash in the beginning and end of the episode.
You forgot to play the wrong side, did you, Barney?
Why are you doing this?
What
What was doing it? But the fact they commit to it though too is they like that idea so much that they did it again at the end.
Yeah, it bookmarks the
But-
episode essentially.
It was a really nice way for Wiggum then too. It's there's a riot going on. He just turns off his radio
Not
and
tonight.
he doesn't want to worry about
And
that. He just
claps
lets them
his
enjoy
hands
their
on the
time.
steering wheel. No.
Oh.
I love it. So I'd also recommend this little wiggy if you ever want to know how many times Ralph sees the leprechaun that tells him to burn things. That one's not as sweet, but it is another good episode where Ralph is the main focus. So yeah, those two are definitely highlights for Ralph if you want to get into them. Alright.
Yeah, and so this next round will be kind of a quick one. What is our favorite lore episode?
It's either lore or anthology episode where it shows a vast amount of the town or something.
Yeah, well, it's a thing that it's an episode that kind of brings to light about a certain figure, Jebediah Springfield, who was introduced in the Telltale Head, and since then there's always been little Springfield, holidays, even if they're problematic. I'm looking at you, Whacking Day. That have happened since then, but there was an episode that really dived into just the lore of the town itself that I thought was interesting, and that's Lisa the Iconoclast.
Yeah.
And we get to actually figure out the true identity of who Jebediah Springfield is, and it's a tight little mystery story. You can almost obviously look at it as a Lisa-driven story, and I like her decision at the end of just kind of keeping it. I think I was mentioning before the podcast, it reminds me of that kind of lesson in the remake of Miracle on 34th Street, where it's would you rather have a child believing in a lie that brings a smile, or hard truth that brings a tear?
Yeah.
And that's kind of what she says at the end, of kind of similar, where it's just she doesn't want to destroy the dreams and the hopes that this whole town has, of what little that they do have anyways. But Jebediah Springfield has always been something that's cut to the core of everybody in town. I mean, when they heard this town statue got beheaded, everybody was just devastated.
Yeah.
The entire town. So the fact that we actually learned something that now Lisa's gonna kind of take to her grave, a little dirty secret about it, it's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
For sure.
And I don't know, it's interesting lore, and yeah, short and simple.
Yeah.
Moving on.
Kind of a commentary though too on not just any town figures, but anyone in general. When you find something out about someone that you never expected, you have to decide whether you want, whether you can live with knowing that, or whether you feel people need to know.
I was that way after learning who Jared Fogle really is.
Oh god.
Yeah, and Andy Dick.
Or Andy Dick. Yeah.
Yeah.
Where it's
Yeah.
It also is interesting because it makes you wonder, what if the events of Lemon of Troy were the other way around? Because it's clear the town founder of Shelbyville is a pretty average guy, so maybe the whole Springfield-Shelbyville Civil War is just being overinflated.
Yeah, by Jeremiah or
That's
something.
true, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Also, Donald Sutherland is also very good.
Yes.
in that episode.
Yeah, he's a lot of fun in the...
He is.
Yeah. I didn't
Now
even
get
know
out! You're banned from this historical society! You and your children and your children's children!
Which is funny because his child's in the show too, Keither Sutherland.
Yeah, Keeper, yeah.
He has a cameo too.
That's funny.
The 24 episode. Yeah. Oh, that's a good pick. Who's next though?
Oh, let's go this way now.
Oh, okay. So my lore episode is Trilogy of Error.
Ah.
So Trilogy of Error is kind of an unsung anthology episode. It's not really so much about lore. It's more just a nice day in the life, which is told in 3 separate storylines, very much like Pulp Fiction or Doug Liman's Go. Which
I was
is
about to say, you like this because it reminded me of Go. Yeah.
Go, which is a super underrated 90s movie. Everyone
Yeah.
should watch it at least once. Anyway, so it's told from the perspective of Homer, Lisa, and Bart, and I don't want to get into the plot because it's so ropey, but basically Lisa builds a robot named Linguo for her science fair, and she wants to get to the science fair because she missed her bus. And Homer lost a thumb because Marge was baking brownies or something and he couldn't wait, so he has to get his thumb reattached. And Bart is told by Milhouse that there is a secret cave that they want to visit. and that just explodes into a whole other thing, pun intended. So yeah, it's a very, very elaborate episode, and I really want to take a class as to how you write like hyperlinked stories, which is what they're called, where like characters weave in and out with each other, and other plot elements will later be shown in another story and how that happened. It's incredibly exquisite writing.
Talk
for
to
a Simpsons
Tarantino.
episode. Yeah, Tarantino. Yeah, a lot of writers can really do that. And I want to know how you do it because it's impressive to me, and it's definitely one of my favorite episodes.
That was my favorite episode of season 12.
Mine
Like, when I
too.
was continuing on my little binge, I was like, this is a highlight. And I've only seen it once, but I'd love to revisit it.
Absolutely. And it kind of comes into Josh's next pick, which is another anthology episode.
One that we...
Oh,
I mean, I've already talked about this enough. Everyone knows how great this is, but 22 short films about Springfield.
Yes.
Yay.
Preach.
I talked about this on the episode 10. We already know all the memes that this spawned, and you really get focused on a lot of side characters that up until that point you really hadn't. Of course, there's Herman's descent into villainy.
Yes. And how...
That is a... I don't know if the Springfield connection comes before or after this. I think before, but it keeps that thread going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe it's after. What is sequencing?
The Springfield connection came out before 22 Shorts.
Yes. So it keeps that thread going. Apu and Sanjay's short is kind of interesting just because, it makes the idea of taking a 5-minute break from work sound like the most amazing party ever.
It's kind of fun seeing Apu in his single life, too, before he met Manjula.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. There's of course the McDonald's sketch send up with Wiggum and Eddie and Lou. Just basically the idea that it's framed as Bart and Milhouse wondering what everyone else in town is going through at that time, and it bookends with them back at the bridge. Of course, the very tall man, who I really would like to see another episode with him in there.
The Robert Wadlow clone?
Yes, I'd like to see the very tall man, just because, like, the way that, everyone in town gets to finally experience some catharsis of being the ones to say ha ha, because everyone, even the people that have never interacted with Nelson before, even Milhouse and Bart finally get some real true catharsis, and I'm sure Bart hadn't even felt that way since Bart the General, because this is something where a comeuppance is actually deserved for once, and it feels like the very tall man is doing what everyone wishes they could do.
Yeah.
Can't forget that Cletus song either.
Oh, yeah. Oh, and
This
also...
sketch is just kind of funny. It's like a little throwaway interlude.
Yeah, there's so many interludes.
You know what I'll never forget? The episode that sparked 1,000 memes.
The segment.
Memed hams.
I think my favorite one is when they removed Chalmers from the entire bit, and they did a good job photoshopping him out. It's just the same timing. It's just there's no one at the doorway. There's no one sitting in the chair. It's just Skinner talking to himself.
So it's like Garfield without Garfield.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
That sounds creepy.
I'll send it to you.
No, there's a million of those. I mean, you could just look them up.
Yeah.
Steamed hams.
No, Mother, it's just the Northern Lights.
No,
It's not. It's like Trilogy of Error in that it's an unorthodox way of scripting an episode that I would really like to see them come back to, and actually use some newer side characters this time, and have the same idea.
Well,
now, will they do it? I don't know if they will anytime soon, but it's a very unique episode in the show's canon, and we've already talked about it enough, but it must watch for sure.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned that, Josh, because while they were making the episode, the writers were considering making a spin-off show called Simply Springfield.
Yes.
Which would have been individual characters going about their day.
And then they kind of parody that with the Simpsons spin-off showcase a season later.
Yeah.
I've now realized that, like, people ask me, like, what would be the first episode of The Simpsons you would introduce to somebody? And while I kind of my go-to one is probably Springfield, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love Legalized Gambling. Yeah, because the reason being is that every single person in that community has one time to shine.
Also, there's Marge versus the Monorail is good too.
That one too.
Springfield episode.
But the difference between Springfield and Shing Springfield, however you want to say it, and 22 short films about Springfield is that that episode is so amazingly paced that it's able to like show not only just like a moment or a gag unlike Springfield, but like 22 short films does a great structurally a perfect job at bouncing between every single character you can think of, besides Professor Flink.
Yeah, he does get his moment to shine.
Yeah.
Make you laugh, make you think.
It's an incredible paced out episode.
Yeah, perfect. Anyways, Evan, you're up.
Take it away.
Okay.
What's
So-
your next one?
My lore episode actually has to do with a pivotal milestone in the history of the Simpsons family. So, when people list off their most iconic Simpsons episodes, the episode that is about the marriage, the coming together of Homer and Marge, that episode is called "The Way We Weren't," or is it called "The Way We Was"?
The Way We Was.
The Way We Was. The Way We Weren't is that episode where it turns out they met as kids. So, the way
we don't talk about those
shit.
episodes,
You're right, yeah.
please.
Okay, the way we was is about how they met and fell in love in high school.
Did I see that one? I don't know.
Lisa's first word.
I don't know.
Okay. Okay, so, anyways, the way we was is about Homer and Marge coming together in high school and falling in love. The way Lisa's first word is about the birth of Lisa, and Maggie Makes 3 is about the birth of Maggie, but we missed one. What happened? Where was the birth of Bart? I Married Marge is the episode that tells the story of the birth of Bart, and it's an episode where Homer is in a great relationship with Marge, being a couple in their early 20s, and Marge is pregnant one day, so now Homer has to man up, and he gets to a point where he needs a job that's going to give him the money to support a family, a girlfriend with a new baby. And then he applies for a job at the nuclear plant, but he doesn't get the job. And then it shows just how committed of a partner and of a father-to-be Homer was, because in order to pay his way, even though he's miserable, he leaves Marge and gets a job at a shitty taco place called Gulp and Blow. And then that scene where Marge basically comes to see him and basically says, I love you no matter who you are. And then that was when, Homer almost walked away from the relationship because he felt that he couldn't be a provider and he couldn't be, a good partner, and he couldn't pay his way in the family. So to show what Homer will do, that was where it kind of started, because if he was so desperate for money and for dignity, if he's so desperate for money, he'll go work at a shitty taco place to support the family. But then later he gets the job at the nuclear plant, and then the episode ends with Bart being born. So this episode isn't really talked about compared to Lisa's first word and Maggie Makes 3, but it goes to show one thing, that just like in Maggie Makes 3, Homer will do whatever it takes for his kids, even if it means doing something he hates.
Watching all three of those back to back is a great trilogy.
Yeah, no. I Married Marge, Lisa's first word, and Maggie Makes 3.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Maybe you can almost throw in, even before all that, The Way We Was. Just
Yeah.
But
beginning.
yeah,
So
the kids trilogy. That's definitely a great trilogy.
The Offspring trilogy.
Mm.
Yeah, I just thought I'd talk about that because it's not.
Not that one.
It's not. It's also. There's a great scene where it's set in the early '80s because Empire Strikes Back is still in theaters, and then Homer is beaking off about that stupid ending. Can you imagine if if you were waiting in line to see Avengers Endgame
Wait.
someone
Can you imagine if a character saw a movie and was going to spoil it? Gee, I wonder where they came up with that
Yeah.
Yeah, really.
idea.
Yeah.
Because the very thing you were mentioning, they literally did a few years ago with Bart the Bad Guy.
Oh yeah.
Mm. Is that the one they show a not a hologram? Sorry, a sonogram of Bart in the womb still, and doesn't.
If I didn't know any better, I'd swear he was trying to moon us.
He was trying to moon us. Yeah. That's my favorite Bart.
Oh yeah.
He's been a troublemaker since he was in the womb.
Since he was conceived. And by the way, don't they show the place at the Springfield mini putt where the windmill in which Bart was conceived?
I think so.
I feel.
Oh yeah, that's the one where they were.
A little bit bad for the guy who won a free game. Cause if only you knew the context in which that happened.
Yeah.
Didn't they go back there and try to be frisky inside of there just to get the thrill of it?
No, that's when they were nudists or
that was
exhibitionists.
Wasn't that in Natural Born Kissers?
Natural Born Kissers. Yeah, that's the one. That's the one.
Became exhibitionists and
yeah.
exhibit. It's more like the the fringe being an exhibitionist where you like doing it in public.
Yeah.
That could have been an interesting angle if they decided to fully commit to it, but that's very progressive, and I do not see a show like The Simpsons trying to do anything like that now.
No, this isn't Family Guy. They're not gonna get that weird.
Quick side thing.
No, I mean like in a progressive way, like in a positive way.
Yeah.
Quick side thing when I just mentioned like a great trilogy. Another great trilogy that these podcasters that I was listening to a few months back, Four Finger Discount, they said that Bart the Lover, Sweet Seymour Skinner's badass song, and Grade School Confidential is a great
Edna and Skinner trilogy.
Yeah, like you see the first episode being the dynamic between Bart and Kerbobble, and then Bart and Seymour Skinner, and then it's all three of them all together at the exact same time in Grade School Confidential.
Yeah.
I'd say try it. I'd say try it out, and I think I have, and it works. So
Nice. I'll have to try that. Not enough people do that. They never recommend like trilogies or couplets that you should try if you want to get into The Simpsons.
I try to do that now. I think it's a cool little experiment.
That's a nice activity for sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
I loved Harvey Firestein's Carl from Simpson and Delilah.
Oh, that's going back.
Because Carl is a sickeningly underrated character. Before we know the Carl that we know today, not Lenny, that Lenny and Carl. There's another
Carl with a K.
Yes. Because after Homer's breakthrough with Demoxenel and getting his hair back, he gets promoted and he needs an assistant. And Harvey Firestein's portrayal of Carl is a wonderful human being. So nice, so generous,
so selfless,
completely selfless, and I am actually surprised, and I looked it up, I didn't care if I spoiled it. I wanted to see if that character came back later on in the show. He does not.
He's a one-off.
Wow.
He's a true one-off.
A true one-off, and Harvey Weinstein is just wonderful in these little roles. All he asks for in return is like 3 weeks paid vacation in an office or something like that. You got it, buddy! And, yeah. And his voice is very, you know who it is right away. I think it's the same way how, like, Josh feels about Hank Scorpio is how I feel about Carl. I love watching that episode just for Carl.
Alright, now who's next?
You!
Okay, now it's my turn to shine.
You!
Okay, so my pick is Mark Hamill as himself, as well as Lee Vell, a character he voices 2 characters in this episode, in Married to the Mob, which isn't a super great episode, but I think Mark Hamill really, really elevates it. And this is around the time where his career was kind of a little bit of post-Star Wars slump, where he wasn't able to get, like, you know, live-action acting roles because of his appearance and, like, his relationship with Star Wars, where it's kind of, like, it clung on to him far afterwards.
Why did the same thing happen to Harrison Ford or Carrie Fisher? Because Carrie Fisher still got
I think Harrison Ford, because he did Indiana Jones afterwards, and that propelled his career. Carrie Fisher kind of, like, went into more, like, self-help guides and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
But with Mark Hamill, he really started to make a niche for himself in voice acting, and this episode was a good platform for that. And in fact, I think he actually, what was it? He requested that he did another character aside from himself. He did, and that's where the character Lee Vell came in, where he got to say.
So the reason why he's one of the best iterations of the Joker may be because of this episode.
No, because this episode came out in '98, so it came after the Batman animated series. But it's
okay. Well, the Simpsons. Still, it's pretty neat to see, like, Mark Hamill, even with the new Star Wars trilogy, he's had a second career just in voice acting for film, for movies and TV and video games as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's one of the best, absolutely.
Even if he does a really poor iteration of Whitney Houston.
Oh, also, isn't it ironic that both the actor for Luke and the person who played Darth Vader, they both were in a Simpsons episode and they both played their.
So was Qui-Gon.
They both played 2 characters in one episode.
That's
Qui-Gon played 2 characters in one episode.
Liam Neeson?
Oh, Liam Neeson did.
Liam Neeson played 2 characters in one episode.
I didn't know that.
No, well, he was in an episode though.
Oh, well, no. James Earl Jones was in Treehouse of Horror, and he does 2 voices in the same episode. He does the voice of one of Kang and Kodos' people, and he also is the narrator in The Raven.
But isn't he also in Round Springfield?
He is in.
Yes.
He is in.
Wow.
James Earl Jones guest starred quite a few times, but in Treehouse of Horror, James Earl Jones voices 2 characters, and in Married to the Mob, Mark Hamill voices 2 characters.
Anyways, back to Marriage to the Mob. one thing I really like about this rendition of Mark Hamill is how he basically hates being idolized by all the fans.
Which is a dig on real Star Wars.
No, but if
fandom.
you think about it, it actually is more in line with what ends up happening years down the line with the new Star Wars trilogy. You know?
Yeah. I mean, like it's not like
if you read into like the behind the scenes of some of those.
Yeah, like he just keeps getting eaten alive by his fans. He can't go anywhere. He has to fake an injury to like have someone help him get out of there.
Yeah.
And even when he tries to branch out into things like how he was like with Guys and Dolls when he did Broadway, he was still kind of being typecast as like, you're Luke Skywalker. You're not Mark Hamill, and he has to do like advertisements in the middle of shows.
And the same thing happened to Hayden Christensen when he played the other Skywalker, Anakin.
Kind of in the other extent, because people were negative towards his performance.
Yeah.
With Luke Skywalker, he was just kind of the face of Star Wars.
So yeah, well, watch stuff outside the Star Wars prequels, or more specifically, watch stuff that isn't Attack of the Clones, and you'll see that Hayden Christensen is a great actor.
Shattered Glass, he's really good in.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't he a good? Didn't he have a good part in The Mouth of Madness?
I didn't see that one.
Oh, okay.
He's in that?
Apparently, he's the paper boy.
I don't remember. Anyways, yeah, so Married to the Mob is a good showcase of Mark Hamill and his voice acting talents, and it's one of the few times where I think a guest star really elevates an episode. It overall is fine. It's a good episode, but he's like the best part.
Nice.
Next up.
Mr. Weinberg.
I already talked about mine.
Oh, yes.
Oh, okay.
Thanks, Scorpio again. See like an hour and a half ago for more.
But it won't be the first time that we hear Sir. What's his pseudonym name again?
Sir
A. Brooks.
It's just A. Brooks.
Brooks.
Okay, yeah, because like he's done it many times.
It's not his first role on the show. It's not his last, but it is his best.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, of all the people who show up on the show, he comes back, and he's even in the villain in the Simpsons movie.
Yeah.
Russ Cargill.
Mm-hmm.
I think I have an idea as to why he's always showing up in The Simpsons so much. I think it's because of Broadcast News. It's a movie that was directed by one of the people behind the... I'm trying to look up his name right now.
James Earl Brooks.
James L. Brooks directed Brooks.
The
He directed
new show head, if you will, face of the show.
Yeah, he directed Broadcast News in the 80s, and I guess he really... And Albert Brooks is very good in that movie, so I think that's why he always loves to come back with his pal.
Makes sense.
These Brooks stick together, if you know what I mean.
No Mel Brooks in there, but
Yeah, that he's missing.
all right, Evan, take it on home.
My if I had to pick, in the Abyss episode, I talked about how I want to actually have if I ever get the chance to teach a master class, I would want to teach a master class on, comedy writing and how to use guest celebrities to the advantage of a movie or an episode or a segment of something. Case in point, I said that the example I would use for the worst is Lisa Goes Gaga, because that episode
And we're back.
takes the premise of a celebrity being a character with their own voice on the show as a guest star, and it does everything wrong with it. How I Spent My Summer Vacation is probably my favorite example of a guest star. Not one, but many guest stars. The premise is Homer goes to rock and roll camp, and the counselors are Mick Jagger, Keith Richards, Lenny Kravitz, Tom Petty,
Elvis Costello.
Elvis Costello. Did I miss anyone? There's like 5 of them.
Brian Setzer.
And Brian Setzer. All those guys are themselves, and it's basically exactly what if they were all to get together and run a rock and roll camp for a week, that's what it would be like. So the way it's used to the episode's advantage because it gets to show Homer being Homer, but what if the greats let him be great for even 5 minutes? That's what I like about this episode so much. It's not, and the characters themselves have some very funny lines. It's like, what are we all here for? To rock! Who said that?
Who said that?
It was him! That's right, Otto! Yeah, we're here to rock! Yeah.
That's one of the ones from the teenage years that I actually remembered because of all those cameos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it has that going
that was
for
the
it.
biggest highlight of the episode for sure.
'Cause
That
a
was
lot
from
of
the era
episodes-
where they had the behind the scenes things when they were recording the lines.
Yeah.
And I kind of miss when they used to do that.
Oh yeah, for
Yeah.
the credits. That's right.
It was a weird format for the credits, but it was like hilarious for outtakes.
Yeah.
Totally. All right.
Yeah, so that's one of the best examples of a guest star being used on the show.
Multiple
Absolutely.
Guest stars being used. It's hard enough to have one guest star. They made it work with 5.
I actually thought you were gonna go with Kim
Nice.
Kim Basinger. Wow,
Basinger.
that's the one Family Guy quote that I'll do today. But yeah, no, and Alec Baldwin.
Oh,
And Ron Howard as well.
When you dish upon a
When
star.
you dish upon a
If you
star.
want another good episode with lots of musical guests, I'd recommend Homer Palooza.
Oh, that's a good one.
Oh yes, that's a great example.
Yes.
Peter Frampton.
I'm still waiting for the 2020s version of Homer Palooza, but I'm sure they'll wait another 2 or 3 years until, regular venue capacities are back.
Yeah. One of the things I liked Peter Frampton's line in that episode. Oh no, Peter Frampton's going to be pissed off. You're damn right I'm going to be pissed off.
Damn right I'm going to be pissed off. I bought that pig at Pink Floyd's yard sale. And of course later it's like, Homer Simpson ruins my pig, Cypress Hill steals my orchestra, and now Sonic Youth's in my cooler.
Aw,
Get
come
out
on,
of there,
Miss-
you kid.
Oh, come on, Mr. Frampton. You're not going to eat all that watermelon by yourself.
Please, I'm trying to perform. Cool.
Cool,
You
go
stay
ahead.
here and we'll guard your food. Or stuff.
Such a massive watermelon. Sorry.
All right, well, boys, we definitely went through a lot of rounds. Now, before we end off this podcast with what we love to do best, and
Before we
that's
can
quoting the whole show,
Before we can go to sleep.
I want to bring up something quickly, just to get a bittersweet thing out of the way. I never had that many friends growing up that loved The Simpsons as much as I did, so it was always this thing I kept to myself, right? Just loving the show and kind of just like trying to get people into it as much as possible, and like they're always like, yeah, I'm aware of what The Simpsons are, I just don't love it as much as you do, Cody, like. So I was deep into it, like I mentioned, when I was like in grade school, kind of into high school, then the show kind of became occasional background, comfort food, or even white noise when I sleep at night. I just have it running all the time. Recently, this past year, and I have you guys, you so to speak, folk, to thank, is that, I got into a very big phase, again, with rewatching The Golden Age twice and progressing my binge that I never thought I would continue. So, I just want to say thank you guys. It's been a lot of fun, and watching it with you guys, even also, I want to give a shout out to Michael Lake, who sadly couldn't be here today. He's off doing a lot of great stuff right now, but he is as big of a Simpsons fan as we are, and I'd be remiss if I'd leave him out on this. When we all get together and we watch episodes together on Netflix Party, it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's been a pleasure, and especially during these hard times of just being at home and all that.
Yeah.
Watching The Simpsons and just watching it with you guys as well, it's just definitely been something that's gotten me through.
Nice.
Very
Yeah,
nice.
the later half of 2020 was like was literally Simpsons like all the time, and I'm kind of still on that kick. Like I'm now in a bigger phase of the Simpsons than I've ever been in my life this past year. So thank you, gentlemen, for that.
Oh,
I don't know if you
that's-
want. I don't know if you wanted to
anytime.
share anything else, but I mean, feel free.
That's
No,
awesome.
No, it's always nice whenever you pull up Simpsons Seen It, which is a game I haven't played in years.
Oh, wow.
And just going through the whole catalog again, that's always a nice thing to do every so often on a cold night.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
I don't know if you guys felt the same way, but I just figured I'd want to get that out as a bittersweet little thing before we ramble ourselves with quotes.
3 hours later.
3 hours later.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's start with back to the beginning with Marge. I'll take it away.
Okay.
My favorite Marge lines. Lisa on ice. Watch out! Here comes the shack attack. Ow! I told you to watch out. From the scenes from the class struggle in Springfield. At times like this, I guess you have nothing to do but laugh. And then it's reference from like what Bart was talking about, how he learned the word hell from Homer versus Lisa in the 8th Commandment when he kept saying hell, 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 hell over and over again. She goes, Bart, you're no longer in Sunday school. Don't swear. Yeah.
Alright.
For you, Marge?
This is a really tender moment, but it's in Simpson and Delilah where it's like, you are so beautiful to me.
Another lover of the Little Rascals.
You're not gonna love me again because I'm ugly and bald.
Oh, I am so beautiful to you. That's a beautiful.
Actually, I should put it the other way around. The Little Rascals were a fan of The Simpsons.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I don't know where this line's from, but I saw it on Marge compilation. It's like, I need a cup. Can you spell that for me?
Oh, Bart Star.
Bart Star. C-U-P. Oh my god. And then
Yep, let's spin on the prank calls.
and then there's this there's this one line I always loved in Simpsons Hit and Run where like Homer's scared of the bees that are all over the place. He's like, Marge, I think we're being watched. Oh, homie, you're so sexy when you're paranoid. I don't know. That's just something.
TMI, Marge.
That's how
TMI.
that's how the Simpsons parody GTA.
Yeah.
Edgy Marge. Marge, who's as edgy as a circle, just saying a line like that is just great. Alright, but that's all I got for Marge.
Alright, Josh, what do you got?
Well, the main Marge quote we already went through during when we talked about Homer Badman because it's just super topical. But another one I thought of, I think it might have been during Bart's girlfriend. Bart's playing with the troll doll, and she's like, and then she takes it away from him. I don't want you playing with something with such awful hair. awful hair. Because it's basically the writers making a dig at her.
Yeah.
Was he going like, I'm the troll man?
I'm a true man.
I'm the troll man.
Which after rewatching Blues Brothers in the last few months, it's like, wow, that's actually kind of cool.
Yeah.
That's the weird thing with Marge quotes is like I don't remember a lot of them as easily as Homer or Bart or even Lisa. Of course, there's the one from the movie. You're a woman. You can hold on to that anger, bottle it up inside, and keep it down forever.
Oh wow.
She's the most sensible one in the show, so that does kind of reduce her quotability, but she does have a few good ones every now and then. I think that's why.
Oh, is that all you got?
Oh, I also like the Springfield connection. The same way that Lisa calls out in Lisa on Ice when Lisa calls out the sports coach about, isn't that those dreams where their parents viciously push their kids into competition to compensate for their own failed dreams of glory? The same way in Springfield Connection, Lisa has a similar biting commentary on the uselessness of police, and Marge is like, look, Lisa, it's McGruff, the crime dog.
Yeah.
Oh, Lisa, help me fight crime.
Yeah, Lisa goes on this huge tirade
About
and then
hashtag defund the police.
defund the police. And Marge, look. Yeah, that's a great one.
And also, I think another great one that I just realized, I don't have in my notes, but from Moaning Lisa at the end, when she basically sees these two boys being dicks to her,
yeah,
and she
taking
realizes that,
advantage,
Lisa shouldn't settle for just pretending to be happy because, that's what her mama taught her to do. She's like, go ahead and be sad, and when you're done being sad, we'll be there for you.
That's a
It's
great
like,
one.
It's admitting that just because you're a parent, it doesn't always mean you know what's best for your child in every situation. There are some things that they have to figure out for themselves.
Alright, Evan, how about you? What are some quotes you like?
Quotes
from
I
Marge?
like from Marge. She's really tough to get a quote in, but
Of course, we have to do the one that's the hardest to do a voice for first.
One of the things I love is Homer showing off his teaching jacket in Secrets of a Successful Marriage. And it's like, Homer, that's supposed to be leather patches on a tweed blazer, not the other way around. You've ruined a perfectly good jacket.
Incorrect, Marge.
Two perfectly good
jackets.
Also, I mentioned the way we was.
Yeah.
I was like, I found out who I should have gone to the prom with, and she lets Homer pin the corsage to her chest. My prom date. So that was really cute.
I like that you guys are mixing in emotional quotes as well,
Yeah.
because I stuck to comedy, but this is very nice.
What else? Also, like, I know one other quote. I was like, how about this potato? It's pretty big. Mom, you're always trying to give me potatoes. What is it with you? I just think they're neat. Yeah.
How could we forget? Dental plan. Lisa needs braces.
Dental plan.
Lisa needs braces.
Oh my god. From
Okay.
now on, the baby sleeps in the crib.
Oh, that's
Iron
good.
helps us play. Hello, Joe. Yeah, there's all these like things that are stuck in your head because they keep repeating it.
Yeah.
Oh,
No, how about this?
the what?
Bart, no! What? on, I'm right here. Sorry, force of habit. Lisa, no!
Oh yes, that's a great one.
Oh, the walls
I
are
like outside this house, you
melting.
know.
So speaking of Lisa, now under her, I got from Lisa's rival, now performing the second band in America, performing their number 1 hit, Born to Runner Up, or number 2 hit, Born to Runner Up. And I love how they start playing. 5 seconds in, they all start booing, and then it cuts to reality. Why would they just come to our concert just to boo us? It's like such a good point on that cliche.
So it's kind of like that worm one where it's like, why does the worm sound like a lamb?
Yes,
Like the ones where she kind of takes a step back and goes, why did that happen?
She points out the bad logic. Yeah. From, I mean, this is a classic, but I might as well just get it out of the way. From Selma's Choice. I am the Lizard Queen!
Yeah, I knew one of you guys were going to pick
That's
that
where
one.
it's from.
And then from Stark Raving Dad, her poem. I had a cat named Snowball. She died. She died. Mom said she was sleeping. She lied. She died. Why oh why is my cat dead? Couldn't that Chrysler hit me instead?
And they all came marching down.
I had a cat named Snowball. She died. No deal. That's all I got.
Okay. I don't have too many for Lisa either, but I love the one moment where she just has a moment of self-realization. She's like, I'm a Buddhist! And it echoes throughout the town, and Ned's like, oh, no! Or something. I forget what he says exactly. Or he pushes his boys into the basement. It's like, we have to hide, boys. For how long? Probably forever.
Yay!
And then there's the classic anti-catchphrase where it's like, if anybody needs me, I'll be in my room. What kind of catchphrase is that? That's kind of all I got for Lisa, unfortunately. But I'm sure you guys will fill in the blanks.
And Josh?
Anyone else?
Okay, so I have, let me see here. I only have 2 at the moment, but they're really good ones. Okay, so one is from Lisa versus Malibu Stacy, which is basically Lisa, some of her more socially conscious, deconstructing gender norms.
Yep.
Self. It's not funny, Bart. Millions of girls will grow up thinking that this is the right way to act, that they can never be more than vacuous ninnies whose only goal is to look pretty, land a rich husband, and spend all day on the phone with their equally vacuous friends talking about how damn terrific it is to look pretty and have a rich husband.
Oh my god.
Damn.
Are you okay? That was a mouthful.
I tried to do it all in one go, but because that episode is all about Lisa trying to make a Malibu Stacy-esque doll to deconstruct the gender norms that dolls like Barbie and other ones were. And in a way, Barbie's become even more socially progressive as a brand since this episode, but it's Lisa trying to be very, righteous and trying to think of and put other people before herself.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But the main one that I didn't even think about until just recently, I'm like, this actually fits perfectly for not just Lisa, like as a core at her core, but also for like the way they write her character in recent seasons. From Dead Putting Society. Why do I get the feeling that someday I'll be describing this to a psychiatrist?
Yes. Also from that episode, I love her words of wisdom of, if a tree falls in the woods, does it make a sound? Bart's like, yes, of course it does. But Bart, how can sound exist if there's no one there to hear it?
Oh.
Deep.
Alright, Evan, you wrap us up. Lisa's actually one of your favorite characters of all time, so I'm interested to see what you pick.
One of my favorite quotes from her is a short and simple one, like when the family makes Bart and Lisa sing the Armor hot dog commercials. Like, doesn't anyone know any songs? And doesn't anyone in this family know any songs in our commercial?
I feel like chicken tonight, like chicken tonight, like chicken tonight.
Yeah. There's a lot of one of the deeper quotes that actually is kind of sad was when she says, being someone else didn't work, being myself didn't work. I guess I just wasn't meant to have friends. Yeah, that's
the thing with Lisa. She doesn't have necessarily funny quotes, but she has very insightful quotes.
Very insightful quotes that stick.
Yeah. She can
and who could forget this? Yeah. Dad, do you know that the Chinese use the same word for the same word for crisis as they do for opportunity? Yes, Lisa, crisis-tuity.
Yeah.
Also, in one of my favorite secrets from a successful marriage, Lisa says, "Dad, there's a reason two people come together and stay together. It's because they give each other something that nobody else can." Do you know what, Lisa? You know what that is? I can't help you, Dad. I'll pay you $10 if you think of it for me. Good luck, Dad.
You seem to love that episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
talk about
definitely.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think like other Lisa quotes that. Yeah, no, there's actually no wait.
You can have one more.
Yeah, actually no, I can't think of one right now. There's so many.
That's okay.
Oh,
that's
I
okay.
just realized one that's actually kind of ironic. Like in Lisa on Ice, the very beginning, it's like Simpson, Lisa. Grades are all I have. What could I possibly be failing at? Jim? That's the stupidest thing I ever heard. Crumbles it up and fails at throwing it in the wastebasket.
That is a good one, yeah.
Alright.
Alright, Mr. Bart. I got from Homie the Clown. After Homer gets up and decides, I'm gonna go off to clown college and be a clown. There's a pause and Bart just goes, I don't think any of us were expecting him to say that. Just the pure delivery of that is just so funny. From the front, right after Grandpa rejects his award from writing, quote unquote, writing the screenplay for that thing. I love Bart's delivery because it sounds like something that he wouldn't say, but the writer still had him say it. Where he's like, "Well, I'll never watch an award show ever again." Except for when that delightful Billy Crystal's involved.
Yeah.
It's like, no, Bart would never say that.
That sounds like something Stewie would say.
That's like something like a soccer mom would say or something like that. Like some middle-aged woman would say, like, just like because they love people. A lot of people love Billy Crystal, and that's just an observation that like an adult would say.
Yeah.
Like that's not something Bart would say.
No, not at all.
And then my favorite from Bart of Darkness, his play. Kibbles for breakfast, Aunt Helga.
Oh,
Is it St.
boy.
Swithin's Day already? 'Tis, replied Aunt Helga. Oh, I was waiting for someone to interrupt me. I'm going.
Okay.
Yeah, that's all I got for Bart.
Alright. Should Evan go next since we like to...
Oh,
switch it
sure,
up?
yeah. Go next. What's your Bart?
One of my favorites, it's like, but Millhouse, they haven't cured any of those things. Homelessness and hunger, heart disease and world hunger are still rampant. Those do-gooders are all a bunch of pitiful losers. Yeah.
Oh, that's it?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's it.
Alright, Josh. Bart?
Alright, I've got a couple. I mean, I wanted to actually make it a challenge for myself and not just do like, "Hi, caramba! I didn't do it. Nobody saw me do it. You can't prove anything." Or the shorter, "I didn't do it. I'm Bart Simpson. Who the hell are you?" Cowabunga, dude. Don't have a cow, man. I wanted to actually
Get all those out of the way, yeah.
Oh, you took one of mine.
So one of my favorite ones, which is just basically anytime you accomplish something awesome and you want to feel like a badass, from Bart's girlfriend, there's only one thing to do at a time like this: strut. Yeah, like that's the inner soundtrack of someone that just accomplished something great. And the one I actually picked, which is actually pretty scarily appropriate from Homer's Barbershop Quartet. Dad, thanks to television, I can't remember what happened 8 minutes ago.
No,
Because if you apply that to social media, it would be like, thanks to TikTok, I can't remember what happened 30 seconds ago.
I have another.
Shots fired.
I
also
have a.
Yes.
I have another Bart quote that just came to mind.
Oh, sure.
Do you remember where it's like? Remember when he's injured from running from the bullies after they beat him up for doing ballet, and then Lisa compliments him for being brave, and then he's like, "Why leave me standing here when I clearly need medical? Why leave me here when I clearly need medical attention?" Yeah.
I don't have to.
Let's see.
I don't really have too much else for Bart. Josh actually said I always loved it when the first episode he just sits on his father's lap who's dressed as Santa. It's like, "Who are you, little boy?" "I'm Bart Simpson. Who the hell are you?" It's like, "Oh, edgy. He's young and he's saying hell." Yeah. But I think my favorite Bart moment in general, it's like Homer's in the bathtub.
Yes!
What the hell is wrong with you? Gee, sorry. It's a pretty standard stunt, Homer.
The main compilation I've seen on YouTube of like different remixes of that.
Yeah. A Millhouse Divided is the one. That's the episode, and that also has one of my favorite Homer moments. But yeah, anyways, that's definitely my favorite Bart moment. The thing with Bart is he doesn't have quotes He has catchphrases.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
has.
So you hear it once, he said it a lot. He'll say it again and again until it gets old, and thankfully he doesn't really do it so much anymore. But he's a catchphrase guy.
It's almost hilarious then that with Bart Gets Famous, they deconstruct the idea of the catchphrase, and that's why the Say the Line meme has become pretty popular the last few years.
Yeah, exactly. That's been Bart's legacy mostly. Ay caramba. Okay.
And now, Mr. Homer.
The big boy.
Oh,
So, okay. My quick line that I have from him, okay, Evan, I need you to play Milhouse.
Okay.
What did Milhouse say right after crawling out of the gross mattress fort thing? What did he say?
Those mattresses smell. Those mattresses smell
funny,
weird.
No, it doesn't.
That mattress. Those mattresses smell weird. No, it doesn't.
No, it doesn't. Just the straight, I don't know. Like, that's just...
It smells funny.
Only
in there.
Dan Castellaneta saying, portraying Homer can make that line funny. No, it doesn't. But there are 3 tight rants that I know verbatim that I will do chronologically. So the first one being from Flaming Moe's. Fools! You poor, pathetic, misguided creatures choking down your flaming Moe's. All this time wondering, how does he do it? Well, I'm going to tell you. The secret ingredient is...
Cough syrup!
Cough syrup! Nothing but plain, ordinary, over-the-counter children's cough syrup! Alright, the second one being from brother from the same planet. I need someone to play the role as Bart, okay?
Yeah.
Hello, son. Where have you been?
I've been out with Milhouse.
No, you haven't! You've been out gallivanting around with that floozy of a bigger brother of yours! Haven't you? Haven't you? Look at me! Keep going.
Well, I don't. Why can't I remember how this
Like,
goes?
Homer, just just take it. You'd have to take it kind of well.
Wow.
How would you like me to take it? Go ahead, Bart. Have your fun. I'll be waiting for you. I'm sorry, I can't do it. So what are you gonna do, Homer? Oh,
Yeah.
you'll see. And the last one from Marge Not Proud. Stealing! How could you? Haven't you learned anything from that guy who delivers those sermons from church? Captain what's his name? We live in a society of law. Why do you think I took you to all those Police Academy movies? To have fun? Well, I didn't hear anybody laughing. Did you? Except for Michael Winslow making all those funny sounds. Vroom, vroom. Where was I? Oh yeah. Stay out of my booze. That's all I got.
One of my favorite Homer lines is from Bart Gets an Elephant, where like Lisa tells him, "Dad, you can't do that. It's cruel." "Oh, everything is cruel according to you. Keeping him chained up in the backyard is cruel. Pulling on his tail is cruel. Like yelling in his ears is cruel. Everything is cruel. So excuse me if I'm cruel." Now I find my head in an elephant, a hippo, and a giant sloth. Also, from Deep Space Homer. Hey, is this NASA? Yes. Good. Listen, I'm sick of your boring space launches. Now I may be an ordinary blue-collar slob, but I know what I likes on TV. How did you get this number? Shut up. And another thing, how come I can't get no tan around here? Also, hold on a second. And he flushes his toilet. Oh, and one of my all-time favorite quotes when he's yelling at President Bush. "Oh, Heidi man, you go, Bush. Oh, well, you are a whip."
There's just gonna be a lot of shouting in this segment. Homer's shouting is hilarious.
Homer is really funny. Oh, one of my all-time favorites is from Dog of Death. "Son, if you want something in life, you have to work hard for it. Now be quiet, they're about to announce the lottery numbers."
Wait, what episode was that?
It was either, I can't remember. It was an episode where like Homer's trying to win the lottery. I can't remember what episode it is, but yeah.
We'll find out later.
Yeah. I also like, what else do I like from Homer? There's so many Homer quotes. I feel like I'll be here all day. Yeah.
Alright, Josh, take it away.
Alright. So, of course, I talked about this quote before from A Star Is Burns because it's a favorite of mine when something's really hilarious. This contest is over. Give that man the $10,000. But the ball is growing. It works on so many levels. I also love, well, we've already said, of course, from Deep Space Homer, Default and all that stuff. Of course, the classic from Marge versus the Monorail, I call the big one Bitey, that I've already mentioned. A bit of a deep cut from the PTA disbands. Lisa, if you don't like your job, you don't strike. You just go in every day and do it really half-assed. That's the American way.
It really is.
That sums up
Basically,
Homer.
pretty much.
Homer's philosophy.
Then, of course, there's from Homer's Barbershop Quartet, the funny foam thing. They took that stuff off the market because they found out it was poisonous. But if you ask me, if you're dumb enough to eat it, you deserve to die. Bart!
Bart!
Of course, the no TV and no beer from Treehouse of Horror 5 and the Shinning.
Yeah.
Save some for me.
That's a classic. Of course, the one I actually ended up going with my favorite is actually one I just thought of like today, and it's actually pretty fitting. Kids, you tried your best and you failed miserably.
Yeah.
The lesson is never try. From Burns' Hair.
Oh, nice. All right, it's down to me now. Speaking of that, I already mentioned Millhouse Divided, but I swear to God, this is one of my favorite reactions from Homer. It's when he's in Kirk's bachelor apartment. It's like, I sleep in a racing car. Do you? And deadpan delivery right here. I sleep in a big bed with my wife. Cut to Kirk. He's like, oh.
I almost forgot one. From The Last Temptation of Homer. The bellboys being a pig, and Homer's like, stop that. I love my wife and family. All I'm going to use this bed for is sleeping, eating, and maybe building a little fort. That's it.
It's good that he didn't stoop to an all-time low in that episode.
Oh yeah.
Because his all-time low episode is, or all-time low moment of Homer is War of the Simpsons, I think it's called. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that
The,
episode's terrible.
Can you hand me some of those peanuts, Marge? Not those peanuts. The ones at the bottom.
That one's
That's
terrible.
him at his absolute worst. But sorry, go ahead, Bob.
Then there's Mr. Plow. There's the classic song, Mr. Plow. That's my name. That name again is Mr. Plow. And I love this is a deep cut too in the episode where he's like, I forget who he's talking to. I think it was Flanders. He's like, "Are you gonna do my asphalt? Kiss my asphalt."
So I said to him, kiss my asphalt.
yeah, basically. Oh, and then here's one episode that I absolutely love. It's King-Sized Homer. It's like when he's like in the highway, he's like, "Hey buddy, you gotta slow your car down, let me in, because I'm a big fat guy and I can't go anywhere because there's gonna be some poisonous gas. I mean, there's really gonna be some poisonous gas and everyone's gonna be dead, especially me."
The ice cream truck.
The ice cream truck. I don't have that one pulled up, but it's just like, okay, take it.
Oh.
Evan and I always ask this. How do you think that guy came back to his boss at the end of that day and just said, "A big fat ass stole my goddamn ice cream truck from off the highway. I
That
panicked."
reminds me of a related episode, the one ice cream of Marge with the light blue hair, when Homer does become the ice cream man, and it's like he and Marge have the falling out. He's like, "Well, excuse me for having enormous flaws that I don't work on."
And then speaking
And there was. I'm sorry, dude. I keep remembering so many Homer quotes because it's so easy to. From I think Homer the Vigilante.
oh, that's a great episode.
Yeah.
Boom.
Homer, Lisa's blowing up the jug. Homer's doing the. She stops. Lisa, never ever stop in the middle of a hoedown.
My favorite Homer from Homer the Vigilante was I'll be cue ball. Homer, you could Mo, you could be Barney, you could be 8 ball. Skinner, you could be low ball, and Mo, you could be cue ball.
You're an idiot. Okay,
Hello, my name is Mr. Burns. I believe you have a letter for me.
Okay,
All right,
man.
Mr. Burns. What's your first name?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Oh, also, remember when he has to impersonate Mr. Burns' mother? Like, "Hello, Mr. Burns, this is your mother."
Mrs. Burns is 122 years old, so try to sound more desiccated. And she doesn't call her son Mr. Burns.
Sir, this is Mrs. Burns. I just called to say I don't love you. You are a bad son, Montel.
I just want to get this last one underway because none of you mentioned it before.
Yeah.
It's from Flaming Mo. It's like, Homer, shouldn't you at least take some pride in the fact that what you're doing is making people happy? Oh, look at me! I'm making people happy! I'm the in a gumdrop house on Lollipop Lane. Oh, by the way, I was being sarcastic.
Well
done.
Oh,
I was so scared you guys were
that
gonna
was
say that
perfect.
one. Yeah. Okay.
Well,
should
gentlemen,
we, wrap
to-
that up.
To add the cherry on top, because we don't want to exclude her, Maggie's best line is, "Daddy."
Not daddily doodly.
Or, "This is indeed a disturbing universe."
Or yeah, no sucking sounds.
Well, boys.
Oh, I almost forgot. My
Oh,
favorite Maggie moment is also in A Star Is Burn's The Birds Send Up. Maggie, time to go to the and all you hear is the sucking and just the tension in that is so
Are you
amazing.
sure that was A Star Is Burns?
Was that
Yes.
when they're in the daycare center?
Yeah, Maggie frees the pacifiers for all the other babies.
That's not A Star Is Burns. That's A Streetcar Named Marge.
I keep making Streetcar Named Marge.
Yeah.
That,
Yeah.
but and then they bookend that gag with Hitchcock walking his dogs outside.
yes, yeah.
I also love the Great Escape montage of her climbing away and escaping. I always love that stuff in movies and TV.
That was the Streetcar Named Marge is underrated as a Marge episode. It was just kind of it's more just acting in a play. It's not like a real character growth piece.
And, I
In
mean,
a way,
with,
yeah.
with Maggie sucking on her pacifier and there's gunshots sound effects,
Dun,
you
dun,
know,
dun,
it alludes to, like, she's secretly a psychopath.
They planted the seeds that whole time.
Yeah.
So that's why she
Oh.
saves Homer from the mafia.
Well,
But that's just a theory, a Simpsons theory.
Oh no. Why? I thought we would avoid that guy this episode.
Well,
Simpsons theories.
well, boys, thank you so much for allowing me to have the privilege of hosting your 50th episode.
No problem, Mr. Pop Talk.
Yeah.
I look forward to you having more retrospectives of movies that came out in 1998.
Wow.
You might as well just make a tier list if he's going that route.
Yeah, this was a lot of fun. What a celebration. I know that our pops are empty, but let's do another toast to
Clank.
Crack
your
the can.
show.
3, 2, 1.
I
Thank
still have
you,
a silver
everybody.
water left in mine.
Thank you, everybody, for listening. Thank you, Josh, for joining on the show.
Good night.
Don't!